School Board on November 14th to order. Oh, there we are. This morning's invocation will be given by Dr. Jeff Iskra from the Church by the Sea at Madeira Beach, Florida. The invocation will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Chair Laura Hine, and the playing of the National Anthem. The National Anthem will be performed by the Tarpon Springs Choir under the direction of Gabriela Santos. Please stand and remain standing until the conclusion of our National Anthem. And Dr. Iskra, would you please share the invocation this morning? Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love for us, for your idea of justice and knowledge and wisdom, and Lord, coming together as communities with unity and to serve all. Thank you, Lord, for these board members who are here to do just that. Father, for the citizens who care. Lord, for the children who are the ones who are served. Thank you that through this, Lord, our community is better. But Father, we know that we need you. You are the source of truth, what is right and just, upright, but also you're the picture of grace. Lord, for those that need extra help. And Father, that is our desire from the very beginning of our country to really live that out. Just, and then grace. Father, because of that, we ask your guidance here, leadership, unity. May we not come forward with our agenda, but to seek yours. And Lord, for your love for us, we are grateful, and we say thank you. In your name, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. May be seated. Ms. Santos, would you introduce the second song?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriela Santos. I'm the choir director at Tarpon Springs High School. This is a combination of two choirs, my sopranos and altos, so our So-Al choir. The next song is called The Bouquet. It was a part of our incredible dinner theater that we had last week, which was Murder Mystery, so please mind the theme, but it's called The Bouquet.
He loves me not. He loves me not. He loves me not. He loves me not. Jack gave me a daffodil, thought we'd be a Jack angel. Jack said he'd give me the world, but Jack said that Pluck the petals off one by one. Sing until the work is done. Sweep the petals up off the floor and pray the suitors will call no more. Tulips, orchids, buttercup, iris, peony, corky spots. Tulips, orchids, violets, name a flower and Jack has tried it. Pluck the petals off one by one. Sing until the work is done. Sweep the petals up off the floor and pray the suitors will call no more. I decided to pay him back and picked a bouquet for darling Jack. Oleander and hemlock, foxglove and nightshade. Maybe now Jack knows to stay away. Pluck the petals off one by one. Sing on, sing till the work is done. Sweep the petals up off the floor and pray the suitors will call no more. Pluck the petals off one by one. Sing until the work is done. Sweep the petals up off the floor and pray the suitors will call no more.
Thank you so much. That's the Tarpon Springs High School Chorus. Thank you so much, Ms. Santos, for that outstanding performance. And thank you also, Dr. Iskra, for the invocation this morning. We thank you all for being here. It was a wonderful job. Now I'd like to introduce today's video. Last week, the district announced the 10 finalists for Pinellas County Schools Teacher of the Year. We will celebrate our educators and announce our District Teacher of the Year on January 22nd, 2024 at our Evening of Excellence. So let's take a look at how our top 10 learned that they were finalists.
Gerard Madrid, everything is coming up roses. Congratulations, you are the top 10 finalists for Pinellas County Schools.
This is a wonderful school, a wonderful place to work, and we enjoy a lot of support for the performing arts. I went to school here, and I had a great time in high school. To be able to work with young adults and be a part of them growing up and figuring things out in life it's an honor and a privilege.
Boys and girls, we're not here to observe your classroom, we're here to celebrate your teacher. Top 10 finalists, Teacher of the Year, Pinellas County. Let's hear it.
I'm very excited and very honored and humbled. It's a surprise, and I feel like it's an honor to be amongst these elite teachers. It means an opportunity to explore new things with the kids, to try and help them grow to be different people and better in reading and language arts, and just excited about learning.
We all know that Kristen Jennings is our Teacher of the Year, but not only is she our Teacher of the Year, you guys, she is a top 10 finalist in Pinellas County.
I make a difference.
Everyone should be in the spot because we all put forth the effort, and we all are here to do the same job that we love every day. Teaching is about the impact on children, hands down. I'm here for them and them only. To see their growth, to see them feel proud of themselves, and number one, to build their self-esteem.
Congratulations, Debbie Georgia Stein. You are a top 10 finalist for Pinellas County Schools. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else. I love my students. I love my administration. I love my teachers I work with. I always said that I wouldn't retire unless I was bored or if I didn't find it fun anymore, and I still find it fun. And I enjoy coming to work every day. So I'll probably be here till I'm 100.
Congratulations, Ms. Bostic. You are a top 10 finalist for Teacher of the Year for the 23-24 school year.
Very surprised, very excited. It's a good thing for the school. It's a good thing for my kids.
I've been teaching for 27 years. I would say that teaching is constant problem solving and trying to figure out what works for which kids. It's making a difference in every one of their lives. I love it.
Your wonderful teacher here, Miss Teacher Middlebrooks, has been recognized as one of our top 10 finalists for Teacher of the Year.
For me, I don't just represent myself, I represent all of the teachers that I've learned from. And I think great educators cannot be good educators unless they take ideas from those who are around them. Teaching for me is just really preparing students and preparing people just to be successful in life.
Mr. Pierce, congratulations. You are one of the top 10 finalists for Pinellas County Schools Teacher of the Year.
I am very, very excited and very, very honored to be a finalist and just to be able to represent my school and all the hard work that we have done. As soon as I started teaching, and especially teaching math, it's been life. And this is about year 15, I guess, that I've been in the classroom and just working with kids, especially students that are far below, helping get them back to proficiency. It means the world.
Congratulations, you're a top 10 I'm so honored to be a part of something so wonderful and so amazing, and it's just an honor and a blessing to be here today. Teaching means everything. Teaching is hard work, and it's absolutely a vocation. It's a calling, and I am so lucky and so blessed to be called to serve.
Hi.
Hi.
Why are we all here?
I'm here to tell you that you are a top 10 Teacher of the Year for Pinellas County Schools.
Oh. Speechless. I love what I do. It is literally my life, so it makes me happy to be recognized for that. I think it's kind of about being like that light or that positive impact on not just now my children, but maybe other teachers and educators.
Hey students, Miss Lisa Bidding is a top 10 finalist for Pinellas County Schools Teacher of the Year. Can you give her a round of applause?
Absolute surprise, excitement. I'm proud. I love that all these people are here to help me celebrate, including my parents, who are both educators in Pinellas County. My life has been dedicated to just teaching children and helping them be the best people they can be, not just knowing knowledge, knowing content, but just being good people.
Oh, wow. That is what it's all about. I'm so touched every time we watch these videos and we just see what incredible talent we have in Pinellas County. We are so blessed, and we are so grateful as a district to have such incredible staff that really put the work in every day. They're doing the hard work and the hard lift every single day, and it's amazing to watch them be celebrated, and we so appreciate everything that they do, and the many other teachers that maybe weren't in the video but are also doing such an amazing job. We are so blessed, and November is a month to really give thanks for all the incredible people around us, and I'm really touched by that, and I can't wait to see the Evening of Excellence in January. Can't wait to go. With that, our Public Information Officer, Ms. Isabel Mascarenas, will introduce our professional and community organizations that are present with us this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. It is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organizations. Representing the Pinellas Educational Support Professionals Association, or PESPA, Nellie Henez, President. From the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, PCTA, Lee Bryant, President. From the Pinellas County Council of PTAs, Reagan Miller. Representing the North Pinellas League of Women Voters, Vivian Posey and Tanya Landry. From the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Debbie Freeman and Olivia Young. We have one member of the media in attendance from the Tampa Bay Times, Jeff Solachek. Today, we have a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibility Committee. Please welcome Giovanni Forcella and Chloe Cotis from Tarpon Springs High School and their principal, Lisa Fatulidis.
Good morning. My name is Chloe Cotis. I'm a senior, treasurer of the executive board, and I'm a third-generation sponger.
Hello, my name is Giovanni Forcella, and I am a senior and vice president of the executive board, and I'm a second-generation sponger.
We're here to represent student rights and responsibilities for Tarpon High and highlight our academics, service in our community, student activities, and some of our many clubs. In everything we do, we follow the 3 R's: respect, responsibility, and resilience. These words help us achieve 100% student success. Our Cambridge program strives to teach students hard work, organization, and the concept of doing more to get ahead instead of just the bare minimum. This is my 7th year in the Cambridge program, and I've already received my diploma with merit. These classes have offered me the opportunity to jump ahead and earn credits now that will transfer in college. My teachers at Tarpon have helped prepare me for the next steps in my education, not just academically, but all around. They provide support and guidance that sets students up to achieve our goals. Tarpon has recently been named a merit school from the Magnet Schools of America. We are proud to wear this title and show off all of the hard work that both our students and teachers have been doing both in and out of the classrooms.
Close to Tarpon High School is the Tarpon Springs campus of St. Petersburg College. Tarpon High School offers college-level courses on-site, eliminating the need for students to commute to SPC. This presents an excellent opportunity for students facing transportation challenges. As classes are fully funded, it also serves as a means for students to gain a head start, particularly those aiming for an accelerated path. This academic year, I opted for the dual enrollment pathway after fulfilling my Cambridge diploma and graduation requirements by the end of my sophomore year. Choosing to remain in Tarpon and stay engaged in school activities, this decision was clear. Through a collaboration between SBC and Tarpon High, I'm currently enrolled in several classes on the SBC campus, including ethics, world religions, and intro to speech, which I don't think is helping, that I believe are currently beneficial to me. Completing these credits ahead of schedule provides students like me with greater flexibility and options when transitioning to university.
In addition, we have a yearbook class that is very involved and works hard to encapsulate the beauty of our school each year. I have been an editor for 3 years, but this year I serve as an editor-in-chief where I design the sports section specifically. Creating something that my peers can hold on to and look back on to remember the memories made during these last few years has grown to be something very important to me. We have continued to get better in all aspects, from coverage to design, during my years as editor. I'm extremely proud of this program and everyone who has put in the effort of making last year's book and helping build this year's book. It's rewarding to see our pages printed and watch our peers spot themselves within our design. We have progressed so much, and I'm excited to work with and teach our future editors about what an honor it is to hold this position. Our student council usually puts together holiday baskets for families in need around our community. These baskets were always filled with lots of food and toys. This year, we have taken a new approach to the concept. Tarpon Police Department has been working hard to start with what is called Shop with a Cop. We have partnered with Walmart and have raised the money to give gift cards to each family to spend on their own holiday meal and goods. The families will literally be shopping with the cops and are able to spend $100 on food and $50 on toys. We hope to help as many families as we can this year and expand the project in the years to come. Giving back to our community, especially during the holiday season, has been super important to us.
The National Honor Society places a significant emphasis on the pillars of scholarship, leadership, service, and character. As the president of the National Honor Society, my primary focus has been on strengthening the community, recognizing that a robust community contributes to a stronger school. We are planning a beach cleanup initiative at popular local beaches such as Fred Howard Park and Sunset Beach. Additionally, upcoming projects include a canned food drive and clothing drive. These service projects are not only fulfilling, but also provide valuable lessons to all members on how service can positively impact someone's life. Also, a notable change in the way we operate the National Honor Society is our collaboration with other clubs. By partnering with Debate, FBLA, Environmental, and Student Council, we aim to expand our outreach and enhance the high school experience for everyone involved. The success of our recent sports teams, such as our 9-on-1 football team, has been flourishing our student culture, elevating the campus vibe, creating an atmosphere of enthusiasm and pride. The triumphs of our sports team not only inspire unity, but also instill a sense of collective achievement, fostering school spirit. Simultaneously, a thriving academic environment contributes to a positive campus culture, where intellectual curiosity, achievement, and mutual support grow. The combination of athletic prowess and academic excellence creates a sense of accomplishment that resonates throughout the student body. This shared success forms the backbone of a vibrant and energetic campus, leaving a lasting impact on students and enhancing the overall campus experience.
We recently concluded our homecoming festivities. It was a very successful 2 weeks for us, filled with school spirit. We always have a significant number of students and even staff participating in our dress-up days leading up to our homecoming game. It's a week where our halls are filled with Tarpon pride. Our most unique homecoming activity is our parade. Again this year, we went through the sponge docks. Each class was represented in even some clubs, sports, teams, and our band. I had the honor of being one of the 6 girls on homecoming court, and Gio was named Mr. Sponger. We both felt our community's love and support as they cheered us on through the parade. Seeing so many people fill the sides of the streets to see us was heartwarming and really made me appreciate where I live. Our bleachers were filled during our homecoming game, and the Sponger Stadium echoed as our team won and as each person on court walked down the center of the field during halftime. It was a surreal feeling, and I was honored just to be there. The unity that our school has is unmatched. We always come together and celebrate one another.
Tarpon Springs High School boasts an extensive array of 30-plus clubs, providing students with numerous avenues to engage in activities aligned with their interests. Personally, I've been involved in diverse clubs including Student Council, National Honor Society, Future Business Leaders of America, Executive Board, Interact, and most recently, the club we initiated, Young Orthodox United. Tarpon Springs High School encourages students to establish their own groups, fostering a sense of passion and self-expression. This environment allows students to share beliefs and enrich their minds and propel overall academic success to its peak. Participating in these clubs has imparted crucial lessons on collaboration, effective communication, and getting insights into my interest while equipping me with skills to connect with others.
I'm also involved in several clubs, such as Executive Board, National Honor Society, Interact, and Young Orthodox United. Being in these clubs and holding an officer position in almost all of them means more to me than just something to add to my college resume, but they all in their own way have taught me skills, the biggest one being service in our community. For all 4 years of high school, I've worked to help my community in some way. This has taught me to admire the family that is the Tarpon Springs community. Tarpon High is a school filled with tradition and students who want to keep these traditions alive. Our staff helps us achieve this and more. They encourage us and remind us that we can meet any goal that we want if we work for it. As we get ready to take our next steps in life, we feel as prepared as we can because Tarpon High has taught us what we need and has shown us how to put in the work to achieve whatever we set our minds on. We are proud to be Spongers and are set to move forward, leaving our marks on this school. Thank you.
Great job, and that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you to the principal, Ms. Lisa Batiolis, for joining us this morning and bringing us these amazing students. Thank you so much. We are going to move to our agenda items this morning. Mr. Hendrick, are there any recommended changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is one change. Item 8.2 was posted for the public last week and for the board. Request approval of negotiated agreement with the Service Employee International Union, or SEIU, and the Florida Public Services Union. SEIU employees voted last week, and the agreement has been ratified.
Wonderful. As board chair, I find good cause to amend the agenda as described by Superintendent Hendrick. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? A motion by Mrs. Long and a second by Mrs. Edmond. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? None. Let the vote reflect unanimous vote, 7-0. We'll begin our special order. May I have a motion to approve item 4.1, the presentation of the proclamation observing National Education Support Professionals Day on November 15th, 2023. I have a motion for approval and a second by Mrs. Meyer. Mr. Hendrick, would you introduce the item?
Absolutely. National Education Support Professionals Day. We're excited to celebrate our support professionals. It takes all of our 14,000 employees to educate over 100,000 students and adults in our schools every day. And I'm happy to have our Chief Human Resources Officer, Ms. Paula Texel, and a special guest to introduce this item.
Good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. I am honored to be here this morning to acknowledge the wonderful support employees we have in Pinellas County Schools. November 15th, which is tomorrow, is designated as National Education Support Professionals Day. And we are extremely proud of our support professionals in our district who work right alongside our teachers, our administrators, our parents, our students, to all work together to make sure our students are being served to the extent that they deserve. And this morning, I have Miss Nellie Henyas, our PESPA president, with me here today, who would like to bring greetings to all of our support employees.
Good morning. I want to say thank you so much for the proclamation for educational support professionals. But I just want to address one thing quick. We have in the Senate, I went to Washington, D.C., Senator Wiki for Michigan put bill. It is called ESP, Educational Support Professionals Bill of Rights. It is just going to help us to look for the same thing they did for the teachers, looking for better grade and salary and FMLA and housing. And I hope when you guys go to the Capitol to lobby in Tallahassee, have the conversation to agree to pass the ESP Bill of Rights, because I think that all educational support professional on the whole entire state of Florida deserve to have a Bill of Rights. And I'll send you guys the information later.
All right, thank you. And I believe we do have a proclamation that we are presenting to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Textel. And Ms. Edmond, would you please read the proclamation? Yes.
National Education Support Professionals Day. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas education support professionals are an integral part of the education process, and whereas education support professionals provide a safe and healthy learning environment for students, and whereas educational support professionals work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. Now, therefore, we, the school board and superintendent of Pinellas County Schools, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, as National Education Support Professionals Day, signed this 14th day of November 2023.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any discussion from board members? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 4.1, the support of the proclamation observing National Education Support Professionals Day tomorrow, November 15th, 2023. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to number 5. Members of the public have 3 separate opportunities to address our board when we gather for a business meeting. The first is our public comment on agenda items, which will be happening now. The second is at public hearings, most of which are policies. We have a few of those lined up today as well. And the last is after our meeting when speakers may address the general business of our district. At each opportunity, for public input, board members are here to listen to you. This is not a time for interaction, but the board will take your comments into consideration before it votes on agenda items. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum conducting our meetings. This includes refraining from clapping or making audible noises during or after a speaker's comments. We appreciate all of you in assisting us in maintaining a civil and constructive environment. Lastly, please note that this meeting and all public comments will be broadcast on the internet and the video will be publicly archived. Members of the public may also communicate with board members through our email, board@pcsb.org, or by calling the board office at 588-6300. Thank you, Mrs. Haug. Are there any public speakers to agenda items?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have 1 speaker for agenda items. The speakers who signed up to speak to public hearing will be called at that time.
Thank you.
The speaker for items 7.14 and 7.15 is Mark Clutho.
Thank you.
Mark Clutho, Largo. 715. As 714, you say there isn't a financial impact with these agenda items. when in fact, what's happening, according to this headline, the climate future is now. And there's going to be a cost to pay. And you end up with a word that I have used many times here at these meetings: correlation. Hotter oceans push July to be the Earth's warmest month on record. Correlation. When you do these buildings the way you have, there is this impact, a direct impact. And then we have this headline here: we desperately need a new electrical grid. Well, yeah, you need that grid when you do these buildings the way that you are doing them. The wrong way. They're not high-performance passive solar buildings. You keep ignoring that science. That Clearwater building oriented the wrong way. West Glass. You can't get more wrong than that. There definitely is going to be a big financial impact. This is a bold-faced lie here. And the cost will keep getting bigger.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers for agenda items.
Thank you very much. We are going to move to unfinished business. Our first item is item 6.1. May I have a motion to approve item 6.1, the public hearing to consider the amendment to policies 2240, controversial issues, and 2510, instructional materials, including textbooks?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mrs. Hine and a second by Mrs. Peters. Mr. Hendrick, will you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is obviously the second of these hearings for this particular item. We've workshopped it twice as well, and so to give us an overview of what's changing in this policy and how it's coming into compliance with state law is Leanna Eisen, our Director of Strategic Planning and Policy. Mrs. Eisen?
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Hendrick, staff, and community. Most of the recommendations for agenda items 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 are a result of new legislation that was enacted earlier this year. Following this year's legislative session, staff reviewed more than 50 bills and 25 school board policies for alignment with the new laws and the Florida State Board of Education rules. We held discussions with 15 district leaders and the legal staff who were all involved and informed all of the amendments that are before you in each of these agenda items today. For item 6.1, we are recommending revisions to policy 2510, instructional materials, including textbooks, and 2240, controversial issues, in accordance with House Bill 1069 and the State Board of Education rules. These recommendations were discussed, as Mr. Hendrick said, during workshops in both July and September, and we had first reading on September 26th at the school board meeting. We also discussed the accompanying administrative procedures during the October school board workshop. I'll begin with amendments to policy 2510, instructional materials and textbooks. We've made a handful of technical edits that include updating the chief academic officer title and statutory reference formats We've removed procedures from the policy, as we've been doing with each policy that we review and update. We've added definitions of library media materials using statutory language. We've broadened the language regarding the form used to file a formal objection and designated a point of contact for the formal objections. The law requires districts to use the state prescribed objection form and to designate a point of contact. And we have adopted the Florida Board of Education form, and it is posted on our instructional materials website. Following receipt of an objection, the District Instructional Materials Review Committee will be appointed by the superintendent to review the objection and material. While we recommend a single district-wide committee, we have not removed schools from the process. We have removed the burden of the process from the schools. The committees will include teachers and/or library media technology specialists and 3 parents that represent the schools that have the material available and accessible. The law requires that parents of students who have access to the material serve on those review committees. The structure and process of the District Instructional Materials Review Committee will remain constant, but the people on the committee will change based on the grade level or subject of the material that's being challenged. The challenged material will remain in use unless otherwise required by law. The law requires that material that is objected to on the basis that it is pornographic, harmful to minors, or describes sexual conduct must be removed within 5 days of receipt and remain unavailable until the objection is resolved. Additionally, as required by law, the committee will be noticed and open to the public. The public will have the opportunity to speak to the objection for 3 minutes, just like they do at a school board meeting. The decision of the committee will be applied district-wide and serve as the school board's final action. An appeal of the process would follow state law, which would be filed and heard at the state level. In Policy 2240, you'll see the simplification of who should review the potentially controversial materials to read in accordance with law instead of listing specific people or groups of people. And you'll also see that the amendments reflect the recommended changes to the Instructional Materials Review Committee, which I just described. We recommend approval of the amendments to Policy 2240, controversial issues, and 2510, instructional materials, including textbooks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hauk, do we have any speakers to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Hendrick, there are 8 speakers for this item. The first 2 are Dr. Sonia Howman and Aunt Avila.
Thank you, school board members, Superintendent Hendrick, and staff for allowing me to speak. I am addressing agenda item 6.1. My name is Dr. Sonia Howman. I'm a Christian mom of 4 children that went through the Florida public school system. The most important thing I tried to instill in my children is to love their neighbors as themselves and to do the right thing, even if no one else is. To that point, I want to stress how important it is that all students have an opportunity to read about themselves. Every student, every child deserves to recognize themselves in a book. Every student, including LGBT children, children of every race, every religion, every child in our district and in our country deserves that. Recognizing oneself in a book is often life-changing, and in some cases, it can even be life-saving. By allowing a small group of persons, for instance, 3 parents and 2 instructional staff, chosen by whom there is no transparency there, to censor age-appropriate materials appears a bit arbitrary and frankly a bit dangerous. To expand on that point, I beseech you to allow Pinellas County students to learn a full and accurate history, which includes a fair and accurate African American history. Students cannot possibly learn from the past if it's kept from them. The students of Pinellas County should not and cannot be allowed to graduate ignorant and afraid of others unlike them, under the guise of preventing guilt, no matter what the state legislation is. I have faith, I do, I have faith that some among you must have the foresight, the insight, or even an understanding of the cycles of history to know that Florida of 2023 is not going to be remembered kindly by history. Leaders and administrators who practice revocation of civil rights, censorship, and appropriate book banning or inappropriate book banning have almost uniformly been condemned with time. We Americans love our civil rights, and we have proved that time and time again at the ballot boxes. The nation is currently watching Florida, and for better or worse, you're all part of that history. Your faces and names will be in the archives of our national papers, maybe even in the national news, in our local papers, maybe even in the national news, and perhaps, as occurs with a random person, in a history book. You have the extraordinary opportunity to be on the right side of history, to reject this censorship, or at the very least, make the process less capricious, much more rigorous, and much more transparent to the public. Allow the children the true freedom to read, the freedom they deserve. I ask you, Pinellas County School Board, please love your neighbors and have the courage to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Avila.
Good morning. My name is Ant Avila. I am with the community organizer of Equality Florida here in Tampa Bay, and I would like to encourage the district or the board in any process that addresses curriculum or material challenges. It should focus on education, not discrimination. These policies should be implemented in a manner that remains subjective, engages stakeholders, is transparent, and reduces books being removed unnecessarily. So I want to echo the fine points that the last speaker made, and thank you for doing what's right for every student and every family in your district by ensuring these policies do not further hatred and discrimination. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Andrew Citino and Barbara Mellon.
Good morning. I am here to speak on agenda item 6.1, but please allow me a brief introduction. My name is Andy Citino. I'm a privileged kind of transgender, white and male, with the privilege of walking through life as no one would know unless I told them I was trans. I am well aware of what is not said in mixed company. Please marinate on that. I'm speaking for myself today. I am not representing any organization. Stripping away books and language as it relates to the LGBT community as well as the BIPOC community is hands down unconstitutional. Not one of the banned books has caused injury or death, but rather these books save lives. Seeing our own reflection helps us know we are not alone, nor are we to be othered. We have just as much value as cisgendered, heterosexual, white human beings in this world. Phrases like liberty and justice for all, the pursuit of happiness, inalienable rights sound so good, but sadly has never applied to every American. We call ourselves a great country. We do that when comparing ourselves to other countries. True greatness needs no comparison. The fact that we need guidelines for teachers, students, and faculty as it relates to LGBTQ language is a sad state of affairs. If sexual orientation and gender identity was contagious, I would argue that we would all be cisgendered heterosexual. This is the majority, right? I Googled secular organizations involved with Florida's anti-LGBTQ legislation and laws. I came up empty. There is one book that has taken billions of lives. It's our country's bestseller. I honestly don't care what people believe, but when it affects my life directly and communities of people I love and care about, then I take issue. Let's just say I've taken issue my whole life. We need way more daylight between church and state. It would be great if everyone cared as much about children as they do when they're in the womb. I hope there are some teachable people in this room today. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Hello, my name is Barbara Mellon. I am the mom of a third grader in Pinellas County Schools. Not usually here at daytime meetings, but this particular issue is way too important, so I took a little time off work. I'm here to speak about the combined vote of policies 2150 and 2240. First, when I looked at them, I was like, oh, great, they're a step in the right direction. They're addressing some really issues that we're having problems with. But then when I really took a deep dive down, I realized these policies are broad, they're subjective, they take away control from the schools, from the teachers, and the media specialists who have been trained and have really done their job. First of all, policy 2150, first I'm concerned that we even have such a policy and that we don't trust our teachers and media specialists, but I do understand this has to be in place, and this is a step in the right direction, though I don't think it's quite ready yet. I do like the fact that the process, or I should say I don't like the fact the process does not take into account the diversity of our district and our students, and the fact that different students in different schools may connect with different books. What I am doing, though, is asking the board to not allow bad actors to take advantage of the law and declare every book they don't like pornographic and harmful to minors, so it gets taken out right away. I would urge you to continue to follow per the instructional materials review policy. The committee will weigh values and faults against each other and form opinions based on the materials as a whole, not on passages pulled out of context. I'd also like to urge the board, if you do enact this policy 2150, please follow through. Don't let those who wishes to take those passages out of context have their way. Reinstate all the books that were removed this summer that did not follow this process. As was done, we saw 11 books restricted for juniors and seniors and 5 books removed per the Tampa Bay Times article on September 19th. None of those broke this policy. And again, what I'm hoping is that to never have a repeat of what happened at the beginning of my son's 2nd grade year. My son is a struggling reader. He has dyslexia. He's made amazing progress. But when we asked that teacher, what can you recommend to help him so that we as parents can help him find a book? She said she couldn't because of the new laws. She was terrified, and she still is terrified. We've actually changed schools for different reasons, still in public schools. Now, real quickly, 2240, don't combine this vote with 2150. This is farther away from being ready. It's far too not transparent and far too much subjectivity. It provides less transparency and less involvement for parents and takes what should be a school-by-school process away and makes it district-wide. We need to address the diversity of all our students and all our teachers and staff and media specialists. Thank you.
The next 2 speakers are Randy McGonigal and Kelly Pomatico. Ma'am, you can start.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm the mother of a 4th grader at Perkins Elementary School. He's been there for 5 years now, and I don't think that I can say anything better than the people who spoke before me. I do understand that there's legislation and laws in place, and maybe your hands are tied to some degree, but wherever that we can give our teachers the freedom to make choices is what we need to be doing. Because the more and more and more that we tie the hands of the teachers and they can't make decisions, the less and less we're going to have teachers to even teach. So if education is the backbone of our democracy, we need to teach controversial issues. We need to teach critical thinking. We need to teach all of the sides. We need to give them the information and the tools to make decisions for themselves. We need to represent all people, all different types of people. This is just where we're at, and I think that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to thank and congratulate any and all persons who had input into this amendment. It is outstanding work, I believe it gives a voice to all parties who may be affected by the use of any media that's in question. My life is heavily invested in Pinellas County Schools. I'm a graduate of Safety Harbor Elementary, Safety Harbor Junior High School, and Dunedin High. After college, I became a teacher, and it was my joy to teach high school science for 43 years. In total, that's 55 years in Pinellas County Schools. I've been happily retired for 6 years, and that is mostly amazing because I'm only about 45 years old. Longevity earns you no additional privileges, and it should not. It does allow you to gain perspective, however. Pinellas Schools adopted a policy concerning controversial media in 2009. At that time, I was asked by our media specialist to serve on a committee as a faculty representative to consider challenges on any school media. I served on this committee until I retired. Near the beginning of each school year, we, as a committee, discussed procedures in case a challenge was brought forth. We never met, as there were no challenges. I believe there are a myriad of reasons why. Foremost, I believe that media specialists and content teachers who request media are professionals that always consider the context of any portion of any book or any other media when deciding upon whether that source is useful and appropriate for a lesson. Some people seem to forget that staff hired at schools are professionals. They are intelligent, highly educated, and caring. They do not choose media because somehow they want to overstimulate young people's minds with violence or sex. Anyone that considers removing a book or any other media by choosing selected material out of context misses the whole point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next two speakers are Tanya Greenblatt and T. Nurse.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Greenblatt. My pronouns are she, her. I am a parent of 3 elementary school children, an active board member of their school's PTA, and a regular volunteer in their school media center. I'm also an ordained Reformed Jewish cantor, serving Congregation Beth Am of Tampa and its nearly 200 member families, some of whom live here in Pinellas County. While I am not here today representing any of those organizations, my roles with them inform my comments. I am here today to speak for inclusion and against the removal of any book from any school library in the district. Our job as parents is to help our children navigate the information they come across and to make sense of content that upsets, troubles, confuses, or challenges them. As parents, we have the right and responsibility to frame what they learn so that they will filter new information through the lens of our values. If a book is removed from a library or a school, it takes away a learning opportunity for all children, not only those whose parents might object to its content. If you as a parent choose to curate your own child's experience by limiting their access to content that you find objectionable, you have the option to communicate that intent directly to your child. If you don't trust your child to follow your rules, you can involve your child's teacher or media specialist who will be able to guide your child to what you would consider appropriate content. You do not, in my opinion, have the right to limit what my child or anybody else's can choose to read. If a child is seeking information contained in a book, taking out of the school library will not prevent that child from exploring their sexuality or gender identity. It may, however, prevent them from having access to factual, life-saving information. Our children have access to every type of content, many of them in the palm of their hands. I, for one, would rather see children get their information from a reliable source, such as works of nonfiction and novels by and including diverse characters, than from peers who likely won't know all the facts, or from pornography on the internet. Before and during puberty is the best time for children to learn the facts about their changing bodies and new feelings of attraction, and they need access to factual materials, especially during the turbulent middle school years. The purpose of sex education is to prepare students for their future adult sexual lives. If we remove books from the school library, they will find their information elsewhere and be ill-prepared for adult relationships. Finally, I want to speak to you as a religious leader, since I know that religion is so often at the root of challenges to books.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is T. Nurse, and I come to you today as one of the team captains from Equality Florida. But I also come as I prepare for my 50th high school reunion from Clearwater High School this summer. And I want to say that Pinellas County school system has been an influence in my thinking and where I come from. I'd like to go back and look a little bit at history. When our family moved here from Canada to Clearwater in 1959, when my dad was recruited to work in the space program, the first week we were here, and at that time I was one of 6 kids, my mom went to the laundromat. And she came back from the laundromat, and all the white laundry was washed and folded, and the rest of the laundry was brought back. And my dad said, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, the sign said whites only." We didn't understand racism. This community was wrought in racism. That hate permeated. Years later, I was in John F. Kennedy Junior High School in 1968 after Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King had been murdered, and we had race riots in our schools. Teaching hate is no place in Pinellas County. Discrimination has no place in Pinellas County. Diversity is not a woke ideology, but rather a truthful reflection on our community. This is a public school, which means we take everyone, all of us, regardless of our religion, of our color, of our gender, of our philosophies. This is a public school to teach hate, discrimination, denial of the truth is wrong. The educational impacts of 1968 on my life resulted in this summer, I went to the National Museum for Peace, Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, where it told the story of the racism and hate in the South from the end of the Civil War through Reconstruction to 1950, and it honored all the individuals that have been murdered and hung in their communities for being black. We need to learn those lessons. People need to know history as it is, as the truthful thing. America is both the greatest country in the world, but we have a basis of hate that has negatively impacted us, and these policies must have an open policy of education, enlightenment, and experience so we have the best citizens possible. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers for this item.
Thank you so much. Is there any board member discussion on item 6.1? See no lights. Currently, we have a motion by Mrs. Hine and a second by Mrs. Peters. Oh, Mrs. Edmond, you want to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
I acknowledge the work of staff, committee members, and those who have provided feedback regarding these agenda items. As I've mentioned in workshops and at the first hearing for these policies, when it was originally brought forward, it remains subjective. The ability for inconsistent application remains, and clear guidance has not been provided by the state. The changes in the policies do not indicate past decisions made by school-based review committees will be upheld. It also reduces the ability for parents and school community to decide on the issue impacting their school or students other than providing public comment. It now will also have district-wide implications. Another aspect of the policies is the fact that if the policies pass, procedures are created which may or may not exactly reflect everything within the policy. It is important to reiterate the superintendent and designated staff have and always have had the ability to remove materials by law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edmond. Mrs. Hine?
Thank you. I think I'd like to share a few thoughts. I know this is very important to our community, so I want to just share a couple of thoughts. I'm a mom of 2 students in our schools. I have a 7th grader and I have a 4th grader. And in my 7th grader school last year in 6th grade, I remember his ELA teacher had every intention of assigning several books, and just a few weeks into the year got nervous about assigning those books because of what we hear and see. And that was very disappointing for me and, difficult. And I certainly encouraged her to please assign the books. My 4th grader attends a school where the movie Ruby Bridges was challenged, and I attended and participated in those discussions, and I appreciate the district's care of going through the process, and I saw the process play out firsthand. So I just want to express that as a mom of 2 in our schools, this is something I too care very much about. I also want to acknowledge that I both feel and hear what is being said around concern and worry around censorship of particular groups or information. I hear that. Separately, right, so there's that broader level worry and concern, and then there's these policies. These policies, which is our job, these policies are not new, as the one speaker referenced. But in the last couple of years, we have updated them a couple of different times. Mostly that was initiated because law was changed at the state level. We needed to change some of that language, but then also because of experience. Because in the years that we've had this policy, as that speaker also said, we had 0 challenges. And then last year, next thing you know, in one semester, we had 5. And that was a learning experience for all of us here in the county to put together and follow through the steps of these policies that had been thoughtfully written. One of the things we learned in that process was what it does at that individual school level when a challenge is made, and the amount of energy and effort and that kind of thing, which, by the way, I'm all for energy and effort. But one of the things we heard from the schools was how disruptive and difficult it was. And so this idea in this policy that I'm hearing from folks about that it's coming up to the district level and that causes you concern, I can understand, given in the last couple of years, the wider range of rhetoric, again, the bigger range that's out there that people are concerned about, that it would seem like ratcheting up to the district level makes it sound like additional possibility of censorship. But what I want to tell you as a mom and as a school board member that makes me comfortable with this change in policy. 1, I see the logistics side of it, 128 schools, challenges. But the other side that I want to share with you is, 1, what our leadership has said. If you are listening, if you attend these meetings, our superintendent has been very clear. He was the head of teaching and learning. He was our chief academic officer. He's been a high school teacher. All of our leaders in this district have been teachers in the classrooms and care very much about wide range, age-appropriate materials in our schools, but believe firmly in the principle of windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. Absolutely believe that all children should be able to see themselves in the learning and reading materials and in teaching accurate history. No leader in this district has publicly said otherwise. We have discussed it in Listen and Learn sessions. It's very clear in the May Listen and Learn session that was held at Johns Hopkins Middle School, if any of you want to pull up that video and watch it. So what gives me trust in what we're doing here is that the leadership of Pinellas County Schools, publicly has shared their philosophy around the materials and books. I have great confidence in that. And that's why you as citizens in this county and voters in this county need to take seriously the leadership of this district. The second thing I want to say is that I believe that these policies, even that it's brought up to the district level, if you look at the makeup of that committee, it still relies on library media specialists and teachers, people who love children and love literature. That, to me, is extremely important, and I see that in these policies. I do want to acknowledge my colleague, Mrs. Edmond, has brought up a couple of times the idea that the policies are still subjective. I haven't seen any ideas how to make them less so. And I would also say that, yes, it is subjective. When you are reading a material, and that is exactly why we train and trust our teachers and our library media specialists to make that subjective call. There is no way one could put in a policy every single factor that could be considered. And you know what? I don't want anyone to. I don't want one politician to write in a policy that this is what will or will not. So I'm not sure how we could make it less subjective. We've done the best we can. And in the meantime, we are relying on those library media specialists and teachers, and then as well with the parent input. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. As a mom and somebody who takes this very seriously, I've been involved in these policies. I will vote to support them. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I think they're good policies.
Thank you, Ms. Hine. Mrs. Long?
I want to follow the sentiments of Ms. Edmond and Ms. Hine. I'm a parent of 2 children that have graduated from Pinellas County Schools, and my daughter was an IB. And I spoke up when the first book, The Bluest Eyes, was challenged. All books are not made for every child, but you have to trust the teachers. I was a teacher in this county for 34 years. We have the best and the brightest, and I truly believe that because they were my former colleagues. They're dedicated. They love the children. Our administrators understand and know what they're doing. I don't believe in the censorship or banning of books. Yes, I believe ages, some guidelines, and our policy is phenomenal for that. But my speaking has really, and I don't care anymore. I don't care if they've called me a pedophile, go ahead. What's right for every child. And my daughter or my son, it was my decision. You all had these children. They are your children. Who am I to come in and tell you what your children should read? We're not going to grow. We're not going to grow as a society if we keep doing this. I'm going to support the policy because our policy here in Pinellas County has worked for 15, 20 years, as far back as I can remember teaching. I never, as a teacher, had a book challenged. I talked to some parents and said maybe in certain spots, could I send your child with my teacher assistant? And I explained to the parent why, and they listened. But it was their choice. We have to grow, and if we keep saying this book is too controversial, some of your bright students, like my daughter, it's going to hurt them. They're not going to get the education they need. She went through USF Honors Program and now is going for her master's and has been accepted to Marsoni. And she's going to be an awesome doctor because she's branched out and learned about all people, all issues. That's what we want for our kids. We want them to be able to think for themselves, not be little robots. So I'm going to support this policy.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Are there any other board members who discussion on item 6.1? I'm not seeing any further. So currently we have a motion by Mrs. Hine and a second by Mrs. Peters to approve item 6.1, our amendment to policies 2240 and 2510. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? There's one opposed. One opposed. So the motion passes with a 6-1 vote. Thank you. Moving forward on our unfinished business agenda, may I have a motion to approve item 6.2, our public hearing to consider the amendment to policies 2110, the district strategic plan, 5330, use of medications, 5330.01, self-administered medications, and 8600.01, the safe driver plan. I have a motion for approval by Ms. Edmond and a second by Mrs. Cook. Mr. Hendrick, will you please introduce the item?
Yes, like was stated earlier, many of these are as a result of legislation, and our Director of Strategic Planning and Policy, Leanna Eisen, will explain those again. Mrs. Eisen?
In 6.2, we're recommending revisions to the 4 policies that Mrs. Kane just named. I'll review the policies and their amendments in numerical order. For policy 2110, District Strategic Plan, the amendments reflect the 3-year plan as opposed to an annual plan. 5330, use of medications, there is a new 3rd paragraph in alignment with new legislation. We've also redacted procedures which are incorporated into the School Health Services Manual. We recommend repealing policy 5330.01, self-administered medication, because it's consolidated into the amendments within 5330. 8600.01, safe driver plan. These amendments update the incident reporting criteria for the maximum amount of damage, increasing the amount from $250 to $1,000. We recommend approval of these amendments to these 4 policies.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eisen. Mrs. Hauk, do we have any public speakers for this item?
No, Madam Chair, there are no speakers for this item.
All right, board members, is there any discussion on this item? No. Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Edmond and a second by Mrs. Cook to approve item 6.2. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed. The motion to approve the policies and agenda item 6.2 passes unanimously, 7-0. And finally, under unfinished business, may I have a motion to approve item 6.3, the public hearing to consider the amendment to policies 2421, career and technical education programs, 5410.01, required core curriculum, promotion, retention, and acceleration of elementary, 5420.01, reporting student progress for elementary, 5420.02, reporting student progress for middle school, and 5420.03, reporting student progress and class ranking for high school. I have a motion to approve by Ms. Meyer and a second by Ms. Edmond. Mr. Hendrick, will you introduce, please?
Yes, one more time. Mrs. Eisen will share the changes in this policy as well.
Once again, I'll review each of the amendments in numerical order. 4 of the 5 policies presented in 6.3 are student progress policies, which we typically recommend amending at this time of year annually. In 24-21 career and technical education programs, we've added a bullet F to the board's career technical education program, stating that the program will provide school day career awareness fairs to PCS high school students about career and post-secondary opportunities within the geographic area of Pinellas County. And we've replaced the term cooperative education with work-based learning. For policy 5410.01, required core curriculum, promotion, retention, acceleration for elementary schools, the amendment adds language for substantial reading and math deficiencies, updates the FSA and standards verbiage to be more generic, and modifies formatting to support the flow and understanding of the policy. The amendments for the next 3 policies in addition to the specifics that I'm going to talk through, modify formatting for consistency across all 3 levels, so as you read through them from level to level. 5420.01, reporting student progress for elementary, adds that any student who has a substantial reading deficiency shall have additional parent-teacher conferences throughout the year, and it replaces the term Pinellas Instructional Assessment Plan with grade-level benchmarks and adds science and social studies to reading, writing, and math, which were already in the policy. 542002, reporting student progress for middle school, adds clarifying language regarding the requirements to take the year-long civics course once in the middle school years, clarifies that there are mandatory district-developed semester assessments for courses that do not have state assessments, and that includes science and social studies courses that do not have the state assessments. And since first reading, we've clarified the final grades section of this policy, specifically the section about retaking a high school course that has an end-of-course assessment and the grade computations. 542003, reporting student progress for high school, simplifies the section regarding grade weighting and removes grade scales that are no longer in use. We recommend approval of the amendments for these 5 policies.
Thank you once again, Ms. Eisen. Mrs. Hauk, are there any public speakers to this item?
No, Madam Chair, there are no speakers for this item.
Any board discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve item 6.3 by Ms. Meyer and a second by Ms. Edmond. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed, so the motion to approve policies in item 6.3 passes unanimously 7-0. And next we will move to number 7, our consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as it was amended earlier? I've moved for approval by Ms. Edmond and a second by Mrs. Hine. All in favor of the consent agenda say aye. Any opposed? There are none. It passes unanimously 7-0. And moving to non-consent, we have one item under non-consent, or I believe, right, two items, excuse me. Correct myself as I'm speaking. May I have a motion to approve item 8.1, the setting of the public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 6320, purchasing and bidding, 6423, use of credit cards, 6424, purchasing cards, and 6440, cooperative purchasing. A moved by Mrs. Cook. Second. And a second by Ms. Edmond. Mr. Hendrick?
Yes, so unlike the 3 previous policies, these are not as a result of state law, but are instead as a result of improving our own business practices and policies. We discussed it at workshop, and this is a request for first reading. Back is Mrs. Eisen, our Director of Strategic Planning and Policy.
Thank you for having me back to discuss the...
Just stay there.
We're here to discuss our efforts to align our purchasing practices and policies. The purchasing policies are being revised as a result of operational continuous improvement process reviews. The amendment to policy 6320, purchasing and bidding, combines policy 6423, use of credit cards, 6424, purchasing cards, and 6440, cooperative purchasing, into a single policy, 6320. In addition to clarifying language, the amendments specifically reflect the addition of section 1D, ethical conduct for purchasing staff, and this is based on existing school board policy, Florida statute, and the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing Code of Conduct. The addition of section 2A3, invitations to negotiate, establishes the authority to solicit goods and services on behalf of the district. This is similar to the request for proposal process and allows the district to negotiate with multiple vendors who score highly in the evaluation process instead of just the single highest scoring vendor. We've clarified section 2D, 3D, that procurements over $50,000 require school board approval, and this is in alignment with Florida Board of Education rules. It was previously unclear if the mark was $50,000 on the dot or more than $50,000. The addition we've added the definition of a code of silence to policy in alignment with Florida statute and state board rules regarding lobbying and communication during a solicitation. And this is in all contracts already, but it was not explicitly in policy. And we've added section 5, authority to disbar or suspend a supplier who knowingly violates the code of the Code of Silence, and those who have been disbarred by other governmental or public agencies or convicted of a crime during the course of business. This, again, is also reflected in all of our purchasing documents, but was not clearly defined in policy and did not clearly identify what those acts are that could lead to disbarment. We recommend setting a public hearing for these policy amendments in January of 2024.
Thank you very much, Ms. Simpson. Is there any discussion from board members on this agenda item? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 8.1 by Mrs. Cook and a second by Ms. Edmond. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed. The motion to approve item 8.1 passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Eisen. Do you leave? I don't think you leave. Oh, she does leave. It's wrong. Now we're moving on to 8.2. May I have a motion to approve item 8.2, the negotiated agreement with the SEIU and Florida Public Service Union, FPSU. I have a motion by Mrs. Long and a second by Mrs. Cook. Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're excited to bring this third agreement with you for employee raises in our contract and to give you the details of that negotiated agreement as well as the ratification vote results is our Chief of Human Resources, Ms. Texel.
Good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. Yes, I am very excited to be here this morning to request approval of the tentative agreement with the SEIU, FPSU. I want to, of course, thank our chair for SEIU, Tia Blunt, as well as Joey Brenner, who is our director of organizing and bargaining with SEIU for all of their work throughout this process. As a summary of the agreement, I'm going to just list down some of those highlights. So employees in the bargaining unit that are currently earning $15 an hour will see a pay increase between 3 and 4.25%. And all of the increases are retroactive to July 1st of this past summer. All other employees in the SEIU bargaining unit, with the exception of the employees in the category of bus driver relief, and lead driver, who received a raise this past May, and which I will discuss in a moment, will receive a 4.5% pay increase. So for our bus drivers, our bus driver relief, and our lead drivers, as they had just received their raise in May, they will receive a one-time non-recurring bonus of $500. And this will be paid the first pay period following the winter break. Adjustments were made to the hourly rate for our food and nutrition cook specialists. SEIU was also provided some additional funds to be distributed to employees employed at the time of ratification and still employed at the end of January, and that was determined by SEIU and which was noted on the salary grids. The school board will pay approximately 80% of the increase in healthcare costs for all employees. The school board also, as we always do each year, will pay the approximately $9.2 million increase in the FRS system, and that is for all employees in our organization. Article 10, we amended that article to add 2 days to the calendar for bus drivers from 192 days to 194 days for the 24-25 school year, or to begin in the 24-25 school year. And these will be designated as much needed training days for our drivers. And Article 9 was amended to recognize that the parties have collaboratively developed an updated appraisal form. And this was a collaboration between SEIU, HR, and our professional development team. Employees represented by this bargaining group ratified the agreement last week, and it did pass with almost 97% voting in favor of the agreement. All increases approved today, as I mentioned earlier, are retroactive to July 1st. And if approved today, the employees will be receiving their salary raises and retro checks on their November 24th paycheck. So on behalf of the superintendent's staff, we are recommending for you to approve this agreement with SEIU.
Thank you very much to Ms. Textol. Is there any discussion from board members on item 8.2? Seeing none, thank you very much for all of the explanation of 8.2 and the additional information. We have a motion on the floor to approve item 8.2 by Mrs. Long and a second by Mrs. Cook. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? There are none opposed, and the motion to approve item 8.2 passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you so much, Ms. Textel. Moving on to new business. Are there items, Mr. Superintendent Hendrick, you would like to share?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are several. First, I wanted to address, I know the last several meetings we've had a number of speakers addressing the topic of LGBTQ students in our schools and clear guidelines and what the board or the school district has done with that. First, to be clear, our school board's vision and our district's vision of 100% student success means every single student in our district. And that includes not only our students, but our employees, our 14,000 employees. Each student and each employee is valued and respected in Pinellas County Schools. Our policies dictate this, but more importantly, our daily work in our schools demonstrates our core values of respectful and caring relationships. There's been much discussion about, do we have clear guidelines that outline this? Yes, our policies have clear guidelines, but for over a decade, we've had something called an inclusive schools guide, not something that is required to be voted on by the board, but something that we've done administratively to guide our teachers in our schools to support each and every student in our district. This guidance has been around, as I mentioned, for over 10 years. And yes, state laws have required us to revisit that and make sure it's clear and also in alignment with state law. We have updated the guide as we've done over the course of the last couple of years, and it's available for our employees as I sit here today. This updating of the guide includes federal and state and local laws and policies, as well as strategies to support our schools in creating a safe environment for all. Our district's prevention office supports teachers and families who have questions or need support on these topics. Revisions to the guide do, in fact, comply with state law, but they also have been informed by members of the community, including meetings with Equality Florida. I personally have met with statewide leadership, and they sat with us to redevelop this. And so as we continue as a district of one who is inclusive and supports all of our students, it's important for the public to know that it's been updated and to know that we've worked with community groups to do so. I want to move on to another important topic, which includes deregulation of public schools. The Department of Education and the Florida Senate have recently released initial recommendations for public school deregulation. It's called Learn Local, as branded by Senate President Kathleen Passidomo. The recommendations are comprehensive and include changes to laws governing reporting, finance and facilities, and state assessments, including the proposed elimination of high-stakes testing tied to Algebra 1 and English Language Arts as a high school graduation requirement. Yesterday, the Senate proposed and released 3 new Senate bills, Senate Bill 7000, 7002, and 7004, which I encourage the public to read and become informed about these discussions. The Florida Senate Committee on Education will have a meeting later this week, and I am going to testify on behalf of the Florida Association of District School Superintendents in Tallahassee to express our interest in deregulation of public schools. There is a second meeting scheduled for December, and I encourage the public to weigh in on these wide-ranging proposals. On to some celebrations. Last week, we celebrated Veterans Day in our schools, and each and every year, the Board and Calendar Committee decides if we should have school on Veterans Day or not, and we have always sided on the site of having school because we want to celebrate our veterans in our schools. On Friday, there were dozens of outstanding ceremonies across our district. I had the pleasure of attending 2 of those at Madeira Beach Fundamental and 1 at Palm Harbor Middle School. They were simply outstanding, to say the least, and I wholly support students being in school on Veterans Day as we can celebrate our veterans. For better or worse, our county and cities don't do a lot with pomp and circumstance and parades, but our schools do. And if you had the chance to see that last week, you would be so proud of the work of our students in celebrating our veterans. We saw the video on our Teachers of the Year, and we're so excited on our top 10. If you want to fill your bucket, come with me next year and see those celebrations. They are tremendous. But we also announced our Emerging Teachers of the Year. Our finalists for that, Katrina Carpenter of Mount Vernon Elementary who is in her second year of teaching, and Dr. Amanda Daniels of Palm Harbor University High School was the secondary school winner. She's an instructor in the Licensed Practical Nurse program at Palm Harbor's Medical Academy. I want to thank the board for participating last week in our PCS Together showcase with St. Petersburg College. This was the second in a series of aligning our efforts between the school district, our technical colleges, and St. Petersburg College. Last year in April, we hosted their leadership teams, and they hosted us last week. We visited all of their campuses, all of their programs, and came away with some great ideas to continue supporting education from pre-K all the way through our colleges in Pinellas County. Recently, our district was honored as a family-friendly workplace, receiving the highest platinum level family-friendly workplace from Thrive by 5, which showcases organizations that demonstrate this commitment to creating a workplace that care about the needs of employees and families, and in the case of Thrive by 5, especially around early learning. I want to thank the work of our school teams, especially our early childhood director, Jennifer Meckler, and director of elementary education, Mike Feeney, who accepted the award on behalf of the district. And we've started celebrating our all-county. We had the end of our fall sports seasons, and also we start our all-county season for the arts. And we did our all-county chorus on November 6th at Ruth Eckerd Hall. I want to congratulate the hundreds of students who participated from elementary, middle, and high school, and thank Ajori Spencer, our performing arts specialist, and his team for putting that together. Thank Ruth Eckerd Hall for their sponsorship, as well as Arts for Complete Education and the Clearwater Arts Alliance. Without the Pinellas County Schools referendum, performances like this simply would not be possible. We had college clinicians, high school clinicians from around the country coming in, working with our students, and then the performance was just outstanding. And last week we had our 5th in the series of Listen and Learn community sessions. We promised the public to do 5 in a calendar year. We did our 5th one last week at Hollins High School, and it was another great turnout. I want to thank those who came out, and we'll be having a discussion at our next workshop to talk about how we want these to look in the future. They may be the same, or we may update them in some way. And finally, as I do at each and every board meeting, I want to celebrate one of our employees as a superintendent standout. And this meeting's superintendent standout is Brittany Taft, an art teacher at Northwest Elementary School. She was recognized by some of the teachers at her school, which said she is a true team player. She works hard each and every day to support our students and staff members in a variety of ways. She serves as a new teacher, mentor, a team leader, a mentor to many students, and also goes above and beyond to support students in after-school extended learning program. Her commitment to children, families, and our community is inspiring, and Ms. Taft is an all-star. Congratulations to Ms. Taft and each and every one of our employees for what they do to support our students each and every day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hendrick. Next, do we have any items introduced by School Board Attorney?
No, we don't. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And board members, is there any items you'd like to bring forth? Mrs. Long, you were first.
The last 2 weeks, I was able to go to the All Chorus event at Ruth Eckerd, and then last night, the Art Alliance at Island Way. And it was so encouraging to see what the referendum money is doing for our students. You know, we educate the whole child, not just academics. This gives an opportunity for students to explore and go deep inside themselves for art or music. And it was just incredible these last 2. And I want to thank the Arts Alliance for just standing with the referendum and putting the money to such great use. I know there's a board that oversees it, but it is doing a wonderful job for our students. And it was just, one event was just as good as the other, and I left feeling upbeat and excited, and to see such talent in our young people. Who knows where this opportunity will go for them, and it was just so encouraging. And I'd like to also say that Mr. Hendrick and I was at Osceola Middle School, and we were there for a PBS, quick
Positive behavior intervention and support.
I used to do it when I taught, but it was a pep rally, and each grade wore a different color shirt, and they had games. The kids were so well behaved. It was phenomenal. The teachers were involved. It was such an uplifting. That's what middle school's all about. It's not just pure academics, but it's also getting kids to believe in themselves, to believe in the school. The Friday before that, there was a fall festival, and again, they were pulling tons of parents and kids back into the school. That's what our school system is doing so great at, because parents do need to be involved. The community needs to see what's going on, and the kids need to have ownership of their schools. They take care of the schools. The school look fantastic, and I just can't tell you, to see that many middle school kids, and I taught middle school my whole career, to be there and be that excited and behave, I mean, they were phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you, because our kids are doing some incredible things.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Cook.
Yeah, thank you. Since our last meeting, I had the opportunity to attend the Council of Great City Schools meeting that was held. And I have to say that part of the programming and the sessions that they have are different boards from throughout the state that come from urban districts and share the kinds of things that they use to improve student achievement, or even how to make school boards more effective in the jobs that they do. But in addition to that, we had two of our people come and present. Ms. Jundell and the superintendent came and presented on the Listen, Learn, and Lead program that was done, where they were able to involve students in decision-making from elementary school through high school. And it was a really big hit. People were asking all about it. Several people were asking, can you send us everything you have on it in order to do that? In addition to that session, there were some young people that were there. They were just talking about what are the things that are going on in their schools? What are the things that are going on in their minds? What are some of the things with which they're dealing? How can they get involved to give more input to school boards? And a lot of conversation about that. So next year it's going to be in Dallas, and I would encourage as many of you as possible to go and see what goes on. There are some really good sessions. They have some, speakers that come and speak to the whole group, but the individual sessions are very worthwhile. We also met with Students' Rights and Responsibilities, and during that time, I kind of slipped and said something. And so now I think it's time for me to make it public, since it's already out there. I will not be seeking re-election. I want to thank the people, the staff members who have known since, probably 2018, that I was not going to be running again. Thank you for keeping my secret. But I would really encourage anyone who is interested, who lives in District 5, to really seriously consider stepping up and doing this public service. I'm not leaving. I have another year, so I'm not going to talk about how wonderful it is. I am just officially announcing that I am not running. So the word is out. The secret is loose. So thank you all.
We're not happy about that. We're just going to say that as a conglomerate. But thank you so much. Are there any other? Oh, Ms. Edmond, did you have some things?
Well, thank you, Mrs. Cook. Well, I know you got a whole nother year, but since you put it out there, it's just, I think it's worth stating that it's been great serving with you and looking forward to you finishing out your year strong. So I currently serve as the co-chair of Pinellas Community Alliance, and tomorrow at 1:30 we will be having a joint alliance meeting with Pinellas and Pasco, where we'll be discussing DCF as well as family support services and what's going on with both. And once the minutes have been written and completed, they will be shared with the entire board. Also, tomorrow, there is a student discipline community discussion that will occur at Gibbs High School from 3:30 to 5 o'clock, and that is open to the public. And then I want to just give a shout out to Mrs. Sicilian and Miss Santos and the entire Student Service Department for the support that they are providing for children and families. Last week, I had the opportunity to be the board member assigned to the Pinellas County Council PTA meeting, and that is where I saw Mrs. Sicilian and Miss Santos share and talk about mental health. And it is critical that we are supporting children's mental health, because I am a firm believer that we have to address the needs of the whole child in order to ensure academic success. As a board member, I was able to log onto the computer and show them how to navigate the website, which is something you don't get all the time, so I really appreciated that opportunity to share how to access school board materials. And then I'd like to just express gratitude to staff, parents, volunteers, and organizations working hard to support students in schools. Around this time, 3 years ago, I was sworn in for the first time, and since that day, I have continued to advocate for public education. I am also proud to share that this is my 3rd year of having certified board member status and being recognized by Florida School Boards Association. It takes a lot of work and effort, and to me, it just shows something that I am committed to do, and that's committed to learning and being able to advocate for our goals and our vision of 100% student success. I encourage you all to remain engaged, and it's been an honor to serve. Thank you.
All right, I see no other board members' lights on. Ms. Woodford, I didn't hear any requests, did you? Just double checking, but I didn't hear any. Thank you so much. And with that, is there anything else, any further business for this meeting that I may have overlooked? I don't see anything. All right, and with that, we are going to adjourn this morning's meeting. I will adjourn. We are officially adjourned. And now we will move to public comment on the general business of our district. So please note that the views and comments of our public speakers are their own. They are not endorsed nor sponsored by the school board or the district. We cannot ensure the accuracy of statements made, but will review concerns that are raised and take appropriate action, which may include clarifications or the referral of speakers to the proper staff member for assistance. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum in conducting our meetings, and this includes refraining from clapping or making audible noises during or after a speaker's comments. We appreciate each of you assisting us in maintaining a civil and constructive environment. Additionally, please note that although board members or Superintendent Hendrick may leave the dais briefly, there are speakers in our back room. We will continue to be able to hear all of your comments throughout. Thank you. Mrs. Hauk, would you please introduce our speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Hendrick, we have 33 speakers this morning. The first 2 are Dr. Sonia Howman and Peyton Miller.
Dear school board members, first I would like to thank you for taking the time today to hear what I have to say. My name is Peyton Miller. I'm an 18-year-old in the senior year of my education path. While I currently attend FLVS online, I attended your Pinellas County Public Schools all the way into my 8th grade year. For my U.S. history class, we had to do a project where we step out into our community and do something we couldn't do 10 to 15 years ago. So here I am today. The topic I'd like to talk about today is more realistic training for the students, teachers, and officers on school grounds, and more personal protection for those officers. Thinking back to when I was attending Pinellas County Public Schools, there were multiple days where I was scared to show up to school or even ride the bus. Why, you might ask? The amount of violence. I can remember back in 6th grade, the first and last time I ever rode a Pinellas County school bus. Because the 7th grader sitting next to me thought her classmates were calling her smelly, grabbed safety scissors out of her backpack, and began to swing at them. This problem is nothing new, and it's something that needs to change. This has been an issue since 1988 when a school shooting took place at Pinellas Park High. Most recently in 2012 with Sandy Hook and 2018 with Parkland High. Just counting those 2 shootings, 43 lives lost, dozens changed forever. My best friend was at Parkland High. Talking about Parkland High shooting, the officer at the time stated that he did not go in to stop the shooter because he could not pinpoint the location. He was scared. Under oath, he admitted he was scared. He had not proper protection or training. He didn't know what to do. My ask today is that there is more realistic training and proper personal protection for the officers, teachers, and students on school properties. One teacher that I will always remember, Miss Conroy from Azalea Middle School for my 6th grade year, always told me, be the leader, not the follower. So come on, Pinellas County. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. Let's be a leader.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pinellas County School Board members, for allowing me to address you yet again. As Americans, I think the one thing that we can truly agree on is that we treasure our constitutional protective rights to life, liberty, and happiness. And so I'm speaking in strong support of your set of supportive LGBT guidelines. Please release these guidelines to the public and allow the citizens of Pinellas to fully view them. Again, you have an extraordinary opportunity to protect all students in this district. It's undeniable that LGBTQ students are under attack by our state legislature. It's just a fact. Please remember that all students deserve your protection from bullying, infringement on their civil rights, infringement on their First Amendment rights, and they deserve protection for their freedom to read and truly learn freely. Recognizing themselves is particularly important for an LGBTQ students. Having even one person, just one person, in whom they can truly confide can be life-saving for these children. By prohibiting a full and robust discussion of LGBTQ issues, you are creating a divide between these students and their teachers. All students should safely use the bathroom. I think that's just a prerequisite to being a human. All students should be allowed to be called their chosen name. And so, Pinellas County School Board, I ask you, please release your supportive LGBT policy to assure the constitutional rights of these vulnerable students. Please protect our civil rights, because as Americans, we love our civil rights, and we love our civil rights for our children, even if we do happen to live in Florida.
The next two speakers are Lee Bryant and Linda Stoller.
Good morning, Chair Kane, members of the board, Superintendent Hendrick, and staff. My name is Lee Bryant. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm president of the PCTA. Even people that pay little attention to the news are finally waking up to the increased attacks on public education and public education unions in Florida. The budget surplus for the state of Florida was $22 billion this last year, and is expected to top $7 billion this year, this next fiscal year. That's nearly $30 billion in just 2 years, and yet teacher pay in Florida has fallen to 48th in the nation. A recent survey I've seen says that 87% of reliable voters say that we should be paying teachers in Florida more. The state of Florida, its governor and state legislature are in such a hurry to crush public education that it is also crushing the hopes and dreams of people that just wanted to be a teacher when they grew up. You all know that kid, the one that lined up their dolls and toys and gave them lessons. We probably saw a few of them in that video at the beginning of the meeting. Some of those people grew up for that. That's what they wanted. When I graduated high school, tuition and fees at state universities was a whopping $524.40. I don't understand the 40 cents. Now those same people that wanted to go into teaching are going into debt for tens of thousands of dollars for jobs that don't pay living wages. Allow me to share a short letter that I received just last week. Quote, I was very proud to be part of the teachers union, but I cannot afford the dues any longer. I was just evicted from my rental house as I was unable to pay my sky-high rent. I am now living in a mobile home and just trying to get by. I love my students and I love my school, but I feel I am being pushed out of the city I grew up in. I'm a product of Pinellas County Schools. I went to Fairmont Park Elementary, Tyrone Middle, and Bogosiega High. I went to SPC and USF St. Pete, and now I can't afford to live here. It's very frustrating that I was taught to be a strong, independent woman, but even as a professional, college-educated woman, I can't afford to live independently without almost being homeless. I know that the union fights for us to make better wages, but I just cannot afford to pay anything extra. I am so very sorry. It crushes me that this young educator is apologizing for trying to take care of herself in a state that doesn't only seem to not care, but is downright hostile to public educators and the unions that support them. I promise this young teacher that PCTA and the FEA will continue to fight for them to be treated and valued as the professionals they are, whether they are members or not.
Good morning. My name is Linda Stoller, and I'm here as a 74-year-old that still fondly remembers my third grade teacher. She was a supportive and kind person who made me feel really special. No one can deny the long-lasting impact a good teacher can make on a young child. I strongly support our teachers, and I strongly support our public education system. I also know how important it is that every child feels supported by their teacher, and that's why I strongly urge you to develop and publish a clear guideline for teachers on how they should continue to support their LGBTQ students. I heard that there is an inclusion policy that the school board has that I didn't know about before, and I really hope that you release it to the public, that we can make, that I can read it, and that it strongly explains to teachers that all our students deserve their support. Every child deserves to be respected in school. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Sarah Peacock and Greta Finney.
Thank you, Superintendent Hendrick and board members for the opportunity to speak. I would like to acknowledge that this has been a long summer and fall. We have had our work cut out for us dealing with vaguely written and hate-riddled legislation and having to find new ways to show our students and staff that they are cared for and wanted. I want to thank the board for releasing an updated LGBTQ policy to protect staff and students, and I want to thank the community for coming together in support of our staff and students. I look forward to seeing working relationships between the community and our school board evolve and grow. I'm sure that this coming legislative session will bring a new set of obstacles for us to overcome together. My honest hope is that every board member will embrace the community that they fought so hard to represent. On the subject of legislation, I encourage this board to take a public stance against HB 49, a bill that would strip our children of hard-won child labor protections. I hope that you will encourage your professional associations to lobby against this bill and that you will support them in doing so. On a more positive note, I would like to thank and acknowledge Caprice Edmonds' work in the community. Carol McNamee and I recently spoke with her at the St. Pete Reads Lit Fest. It is so encouraging to see our board members at work. Board Member Embrun, thank you. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, board members and supervisor or superintendent, for allowing me to speak, and I'd like to also recognize all the folks here present who are dedicated to public education. And that's what I want to talk about, the fact that you folks have dedicated your time and lives to public education, and the tendency in the recent political world scene, and especially national scene, we've seen certain institutions come under attack, like public education. That concept of coming together as a community to educate our children in a fair and equitable way is coming under attack. And what do I mean? I mean that when all of a sudden, Board Member Long has mentioned this, all of a sudden you're getting challenges for books that you never got before. And all of a sudden there's activism in the community that was not really from the community, but from without, and having a political agenda. So when you see folks starting to urge book bannings of books they haven't completely read, and by attacking the education system as a whole, by bringing up problems they've already created, then you notice that there's a challenge to the entire concept of public education. So I urge all of you folks to be careful about how public education is being undermined in the confidence of the community. So that brings up my key point, and that is all of us have a responsibility to talk about public education to our neighbors, how the positive parts, the incredible vibrancy, the diversity, the interests that are different for each school, the wonderful teachers, the great projects that are being put forth by individual schools and by the whole community, by the whole district. So what I'm saying is that it's our responsibility to counteract the negativity that we might be hearing in our own community by folks who do not love public education, would love to privatize it and control it and completely deregulate it. It's up to us to talk about how we believe in it. You must believe in it. Here you are, dedicating your lives to it. It's up to us to talk positively about it in our community so it has a fair chance. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Susan Yormarek and Aunt Avila.
Hello again, and thank you to the board and superintendent. First of all, thank you, as other speakers have said, for hearing the community members that have been attending meetings in the last few months, asking for these inclusive guidelines. We know that you have been working on them, and they will be made available to folks. So we appreciate those being released. We appreciate so much. We've heard a lot from the board, from board members, that they appreciate folks coming to these meetings and other opportunities to interface with you so you can hear from us. And so we have done just that. We have showed up and we have expressed what is important to each of us and to us as a community here in Pinellas. And it means a lot to all of us, I know, in this room, that that seems to be heard today. So thank you again for doing that. As Ms. Peacock said, the legislative session is just around the corner, and I know so many community members that I speak to are looking forward to being there in Tallahassee during session to address lawmakers in the same way, doing the same type of civic involvement and engagement they have here in this chamber. So thank you for allowing your community to be here and exercise that right. Thank you for listening to them and releasing these guidelines. I want to confidently say that this community is empowered to continue to be here and offering that support for the good stewardship of all students of this district and respect of every family. And also accountability to be good stewards of this district. So thank you for maintaining this space and that those rights can be exercised. And again, thank you for releasing these guidelines so that students can be protected and teachers can be supported and families, all families, can be respected. Thank you.
Recalling Susan Yormarek. Thank you. The next two speakers are John Stewart and Laura McCullough.
Good morning or afternoon. My name is John Stewart. I was a teacher in Pinellas County Public High Schools for 37 years, first for 4 years at my alma mater, Seminole High School, and then at Osceola High School for 33 years. I retired in 2016, and I also had my 50-year reunion this year. I was at the school board meeting last month, and I saw a room full of frightened, traumatized people pleading for help from the board. They were LGBTQ kids and adults and their families, friends, teachers, and former teachers. They told stories of living in fear, of being bullied, of having a car vandalized, of being demonized by a national political party. I can't imagine the courage it took to speak before this board and put their names and faces in public. The LGBTQ speakers and their supporters were not traumatized by a natural crisis like a hurricane or a random event, like getting cancer or being hit by a drunk driver. They were traumatized by a carefully planned, callously deliberate, and very well-financed campaign against LGBTQ people. You can push back against that campaign by vigorously promoting and enforcing your policies for safe and inclusive schools. The political and religious belief system that spawned this campaign is the opposite of public schools. Public schools accept and support everyone. This system tells its supporters who's in, the people who look, love, and believe like them, and who's out, who's deserving of respect, and who needs to be corrected, whom God likes, whom God doesn't like. A tree is known by its fruits, and the fruits of that belief system and campaign are the suffering, fear, and trauma that I saw last month for over an hour. I have LGBTQ friends, neighbors, and church members who are being driven out of Florida by that campaign. However, the fruits of vigorous LGBT inclusion and support are protecting and including all students, especially the most vulnerable, which is what you were elected to do. I can't imagine the LGBTQ people who come to board meetings are offering a gift to straight people like me. By coming here and courageously coming here and insisting on their humanity, they're offering us the gift of seeing them as human beings, as we all are, and deserving of decent treatment as we all are. I was very glad to hear Superintendent Hendrick talk about the updated policies. All I can find on the website are the Inclusive School Support Guide from 2020, so I'm asking you to promulgate, that's your vocabulary word for the day, promulgate these policies, because by LGBTQ people insisting on straight people like me seeing them as human, they're offering all of us straight people a.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Laura McCullough, and I had a nice speech prepared, but I just want to change it. You know, I think we're barking up the wrong tree. And the comments of the previous speaker, you know, that children have to be afraid in our schools. I'm an old ER nurse. I swore I wasn't going to retire until we had universal health care for all, because I'm so tired of telling people I'm so sorry that you have to die because you don't have insurance. That's just so wrong. That's off topic. But you know, the #1 cause of deaths for our children is firearms. We're barking up the wrong tree. People don't feel safe in our schools. I was just overseas. I got back last week. People don't want to come here. We are on a list of do not go to countries because of our violence. People don't feel safe here. Kids don't feel safe. They can't learn when they're afraid. And our governor just passed a law, I think last year, that you don't have to have background checks for guns. I think he put a target on the back of every Floridian. And I'm not against guns. I grew up in Michigan. Everybody hunted. You know, guns were always part of. You know, the dads had their. My dad didn't, but a lot of my friends' dads had their rifles in the case. You know, I'm not against guns, but I'm really for background checks. I don't see how our kids can feel safe to learn. If you're walking in and you're scared of school shootings, massive school shootings, we can't go to synagogues, we can't go to churches, we can't go to grocery stores, we can't go to concerts, and we can't go to schools without fear of mass shootings. And I think that if we could unify against that, you know, and I watch people say the Pledge of Allegiance and that everybody loves the Constitution, and that girl that sang the Star Spangled Banner, my God, did you hear that note that she hit? That was really good. But, and then, you know, we talk about unity and freedom and liberty and justice for all, and then we walk out that door and certain factions are saying, who can I hurt? Who can I vilify? Who can I, you know, I want to ban books. I want to, you know, I don't like their sexual orientation, and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen anywhere in my county. I mean, come on. We just need to unite against things that are basic, like safety. And everybody should have food. There's a lot of kids that come to school hungry. You know, the poverty rate for children is astounding in supposedly the richest country in the world. And I wish, and healthcare, you know, people are coming in sick because they just don't have healthcare. I wish we would unite around bigger topics than what books somebody should or shouldn't read. And thank you, the board. Your comments were very well taken. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Sharon Hampson and Lindy Lindsay.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Sharon Hampson, and yeah, I had the whole speech thing too. But after hearing everybody, I'm going to do some of it, but really I just want to thank everybody for their commitment to our children and to our community values, and I feel heard today. So I want to tell a story about my students started what they called on their own the lunchroom news flash, because our cafeteria lady was so upset. They were so noisy, so I made them take a book to lunch. So I will teach you what one of our students taught me in the lunchroom news flash. She read a book about the Statue of Liberty, and this is what she said. She stands 15 stories tall in the New York Harbor. In her right hand, she has a torch that represents the light that shows people the path to freedom. In her left hand, she holds a tablet with the Declaration of America's Independence Date. Her crown has 7 spikes and represents the sun, our 7 continents, and 7 seas, which emphasize her message of welcome and inclusiveness. Her feet have broken shackles and chains to represent freedom from oppression and servitude and the end of slavery. Our Lady of Liberty has received millions of immigrants right up until 1943, and most likely someone here, or all of us, have ancestors who were greeted by her. She is a symbol of hope, freedom, and equality for all people. Now I'd like to just do a quick excerpt. A mighty woman it's on the platform on the base. A mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning. Her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon glows the worldwide welcome. Her eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuge of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest toast to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. We are at a crucial point here. We must find the right path that is best for all students in Pinellas County. That begins with basic respect, not for who we as adults want our students to be, but as the children they are now and the adults they will become in the future. We must honor their individualism and allow all students to be seen.
not just the ones who fit in the box that some of society would prefer we put all of them in. Now is the time. Let's come together as a community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindy Lindsay, and I come here today feeling somewhat inspired. I truly appreciated the Vice Chair's words of having her own students and what she was going through. I had to be convinced by a school board member, a personal friend of mine, that I needed to take my boys to public school. She was 100% right. They attended the MEGAS program and also the IMAS program. Our oldest is an astrophysicist, and the youngest is an astronomer who's making more money at coding, of course, believe it or not. I'm somewhat dismayed, though, in our political science, something that we didn't deal with when my kids were growing up. I was a volunteer all throughout the schools. My most important part I feel that I had was reading to the second grade students. This is when they're below skill average. And so those books that were out there at the time, Harry Potter had just come out, and to gather their attention meant everything. And to turn around and to see today, we've banned a book, Stella, the book about a beagle that protects its epileptic owner. Why is that banned? The author's last name is gay. It's the absurdity of what has happened. We had this group, not even within our county, that went through all around the states. They call themselves Moms for Liberty. But what they've done is they've retracted the ability to accept gay children, transgender, to accept differences. And that's not the school system I came from. And so within today's political climate, there's one thing I'd like to quote. And it is from Stetson law professor, constitutional law professor, Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens tells us that the governor has, in Article 9, Section 4, the Florida law reminds us that the governor has no authority over school board to operate, control, and supervise the schools, nor does a radical, racist Moms for Liberty group. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Mark Clutho and Jemire Jenkins.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Well, I see you moved that thermostat all the way up to 70 degrees. So you're still comfortable wearing coats. How stupid is that? Well, with that last election, the Moms for Stupidity took a whooping. Boy, they took a whooping. How good is that? Ha ha ha. Yeah. Boy, there's some angst in here, isn't there? It's just so thick you could cut it with a knife. Yeah, well, you know, speaking of books, Energy Unbound. Amory Lovins signed it in '92 at the Energy Conference. He was the keynote speaker. For Mark Clutho, Partner in Creating America's Future. See, this is what matters. This is a book that counts. A Primer on Sustainable Building. This is from the Rocky Mountain Institute, founded by Amory Lovins. Bill Browning from the Rocky Mountain Institute. To Mark, thanks for your efforts and passion. That was from the Hillsborough County Schools, the day-long seminar that they put on. And of course, Pinellas County Schools missed that one. And the St. Pete Times, I notified them, they neglected to show up for that one. So did the Tampa Tribune. And of course, neither the Pinellas or the Hillsborough schools have made the high-performance passive school buildings that was noted at this seminar. And that's going back to 97, I believe it was. And then we have the sixth extinction in unnatural history. Human-induced. Making your stupid buildings. Yeah, you need to worry about that. It's all going up in smoke. Your legacy. It's so damn pathetic.
Good morning, members of the school board. Thank you, Ms. Edmond, for voting no. My name is Jameer Jenkins, and I'm a support professional, member of Today's Church Tampa Bay, and product of Pinellas County Schools. I graduated from Lakewood High School's CAT program and Florida State University. In the evenings, you can catch me at American Stage in their production of Acts of Faith, but during the day, my students call me Miss Jenkins. I'm here for them today. In order to facilitate learning, the first thing you must do is create safety. Learning takes vulnerability. Students must feel safe to be themselves in order to be vulnerable enough to learn. Students cannot feel safe when they feel under attack through censorship, erasure, racist propaganda, and guns. I've been around long enough to see students pay the price of poor school board decisions. It's easy to say this is the best we can do when you're not under attack. When considering age appropriateness of content, I would like to share that in elementary school at Lynch Elementary, I was called black trash by a white classmate. If we charge students to wrestle with their mortality and force them through active shooter drills, we must also align that with the content we expect them to be exposed to. The Florida Department of Education has adopted social studies standards that embed the idea that slavery was beneficial to African Americans and emphasizes acts of violence perpetrated by African Americans. Books are being banned for their inclusion of diverse viewpoints, characters, stories, and identities. LGBTQ+ faculty, staff, students, and their families are being denied basic dignities, including having access to affirming restrooms and being acknowledged by their affirmed pronouns. I deeply regret that one of my trans students withdrew because we could not support their needs due to the implementation of new procedures with a lack of guidance. Middle schoolers are embarking on journeys of self-discovery, crafting who they are and dreaming of who they'd like to be. We should be nurturing and encouraging them to ask questions and explore. Instead, we're forcing them to hide and hate who God has created them to be. In fear of unknown consequences from the school board, many administrators, teachers, and mentors have decided to err on the side of caution. And unfortunately, the side of caution is the side that places our students at risk. The side of caution has made my classroom unsafe. Since when did respect become controversial? How are pronouns different from Williams being wanted to be called Billy? When did it become controversial to call someone what they prefer to be called? It seems the only difference is who's asking. In the principles of professional conduct, we are charged to value the worth and dignity of every person.
The next two speakers are Wendy Vernon and Alicio Santana.
Guess I got here first. I did want to say thank you, all of you, for taking the time, listening to us, and letting us be heard with our concerns. We really appreciate you looking into the guidelines, and I look forward to reading them. My only question with that is, you know, I know you can't answer right now, but moving forward, how is that information going to be promoted to the teachers and to the parents so that we know it's there? Kind of similar to the permission forms we had for having affirmed names at school for our children. A lot of parents just didn't even know about it. So I'd like to see some proactive promotions of that inclusive guide for parents and students and teachers. So that was one thing. I had planned something else to say also, which I will skip the majority of that, but there was one thing I really did want to share as part of LGBT community and things that, issues that we face here in the community with our families. This week is Transgender Awareness Week, and it's a week dedicated to raising the visibility of transgender people, educating others about transgender identities, and raising awareness of issues the community faces. At the end of this week, or the week ends on the 20th, with Transgender Day of Remembrance, that on November 20th. It's a day where the world pauses to remember the lives of many transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming persons killed in acts of targeted transphobic violence. This also includes those lost to suicide due to transphobia. How does this relate to our children? According to Trevor Project, a national organization with a mission to end suicide among LGBTQ+ people, 41% of LGBTQ+ young people seriously considered suicide in the past year. People who are transgender or non-binary and or people of color reported higher rates than their peers. LGBTQ youth who report having at least one accepting adult were 40% less likely to report a suicide attempt in the past year. One person. So imagine what an entire community could do. A whole community of support, all of us in unity, working for all of our children. One thing I also would like to end with is, you know, again, my appreciation for looking into these inclusion policies, and I hope that we will see some of you in Tallahassee advocating for all of our kids and helping with this legislation that's been anti-LGBTQ. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Eliseo Santana, and I've been a resident of Pinellas County since 1980, when I got out of the Army, and all four of my children were born in this county, and they've attended public schools, and they're adults now, and they have given me 13 grandchildren that are currently have gone through the school system, public school system, or currently we put them in your hands and your guidance because my future, the future of our children, of our community, depends on the quality of the education they receive. I'm also represent LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens, which is the largest Hispanic organization in the United States with over 135,000 members. I represent the state of Florida. And so I'm here not only to speak as me, but also for a wide group of Hispanics that live in our community. And I have to say that when I listen to the words of the superintendent, it brings joy to me because what he says in words is what I want to see in reality. And as I look at the school board and you that we have voted for to be responsible for the well-being of our children, I say that if you are here with the intent and the desire to make my children, our children, learn more and be properly educated and prepared for the future, then you are my champions. If you're here to seek political gain and impose will and to keep us from knowing the truth, then I beg that you reconsider that, because each of us have a neighbor, and that neighbor may be that person that you may keep that knowledge from, that may keep them happy. I have to say that I'm here to offer my services to be able to allow us to work together for the common good that we have. But there are many barriers that happen. There are many invisible barriers, none that you have done intentionally, but that are there. I'll give you a quick example. I've been coming to these board meetings for quite a while, and sometimes I speak, sometimes I don't. They announce organizations that are pro-education, and at the beginning of it, LULAC, which is nationally recognized as a pro-education advocate that wants to work with you, is not recognized.
The next two speakers are Carol McNamee and Chris Esteva.
Good afternoon, Board, Mr. Hendrick. After I changed everything I had to say too, and after listening to everything, I want to educate people in the audience. I'm hoping that all the board members know that we have the Bridging the Gap plan, and that the Bridging the Gap plan has 6 goals, yes? I don't think you know that those 6 goals came from a federal judge. Let that sink in. And why? Because in 1964, the NAACP, Clearwater, I believe, filed a suit against this system because they refused to integrate. That case was called the Bradley versus this school board. It is no longer Bradley because Mr. Bradley is pretty old now, and he withdrew as the plaintiff. Now we have the plaintiff of the Concerned Organizations for Quality Education for Black Students. I'm going to connect this to the LGBTQ issue. At that time, in 1964, the issue was for Black students to be able to attend this school. And you had a young woman who said that she was still called that when she was in school. For God's sake, that wasn't 1964. Okay, so the federal judge didn't really think that he should leave it up to anybody other than the court. So he instituted the District Monitoring Advisory Committee, otherwise called DMAC. Last Thursday, I became the chair of that. I want everybody to know it because I want the population, north, south, east, and west, to say to me, listen, we're not meeting this. So I want to tell you, we get reports quarterly. The district comes and they keep us informed of how we're doing. So I want you to know, I don't think you want to have another federal lawsuit that says now it's going to be for LGBTQ, because we haven't even met this one yet since '64. Let that sink into you.
Good afternoon. I feel impelled to tell my story after going to a meeting of Equality Florida in reference to guidelines for children who are students who are either lesbian, gay, or transgender. My profession is also involved with that community as a social worker. I graduated from St. Petersburg High School in 1958 at the age of 18. And looking back, my story really was very sad when I was at St. Pete High, and for me, and that had to do with questioning whether or not I was gay or what, but I just didn't fit in. and I would sit by myself a lot. Even during lunchtime, I would walk the halls outside, and I just couldn't associate with what was happening for me, not understanding what it was, and my learning suffered. That's the point I want to make. I graduated, I went to college, I went in the Air Force, I had a family, I was adapting to all the things in life that you're supposed to do. And my problem finally ended with, or my conflict ended when I was 32, and I fell in love with a man who was also a teacher. And that to me was the turning point. So I realized that I needed to be kind to myself, and this is what I tell people. My issue is really, my story is really one of someone who would have benefited from having affirmations that related to it's okay to be this or that or the other while I was in school, especially in high school. Thank you very much.
The next two speakers are Lucia Gasque-Carroll and Bruce Barnett.
Good morning, school board members. First of all, thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts with you today. My name is Lucia Gasque-Carroll. I live in Pinellas County, and I am here today to talk about LGBTQ+ guidelines. First of all, I also had to change my my speech a little bit. I want to thank you for putting the effort into these inclusive guidelines, which I acknowledge is not an easy task. And I'm glad you're prioritizing the safety of our students and staff and teachers. I hope this brings the much needed change we need in Pinellas County, where teachers will not be harassed or discriminated against, and kids will feel safe to be themselves freely and being respected for who they are. As I mentioned in previous meetings, I'm a mom of a non-binary 7-year-old kid, and after months and months of waiting for these guidelines, since we didn't have any answer, we made the hard decision to change our kid to another educational setting, to a private school, where they were guaranteed to have gender-neutral bathrooms, and their pronouns were going to be respected. I was thinking about that student writing about a Statue of Liberty and also listening to Aliceo. I am an immigrant, and when I decided to move here 13 years ago, it was because I experienced that melting pot. I visited and I experienced that melting pot that people were talking about. Coming from a country with a total population of 3 million people, I was amazed. Just amazed at the possibility of coexist with folks from all different backgrounds, with so much diversity, just to learn from others and grow as an individual. This is what I wanted for my future kids. To live in a community where schools offer that same melting pot that attracted me to this country. Kids from all different backgrounds, different identities, and different ideas, learning from and with each other in an empathetic way. As I mentioned before, my kid is attending a private school for one reason, and that's safety. The fact they are not bullied anymore, or they are not being ridiculed by teachers anymore, has made a huge impact for them, and they are starting to learn at a way. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Barnett. I live in Seminole,
and I was invited by Equality Florida, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. I would like to ask the board if they could ensure that the Parental Rights and Education Act is not being used to unfairly target LGBTQ students, staff, etc. When I read the law, it says that it prohibits classroom discussion or instruction about sexual orientation or gender identity. And while LGBTQ plus may be a sexual orientation and or a gender identity, also heterosexuality is a sexual orientation. But you don't hear about banning books because they're discussing heterosexuality, mom and dad. Also, gender identity would include male and female. And so potentially you couldn't say that you're going to go to the boys' room in school, in class, because that's discussing gender identity. So I feel that the law is totally ridiculous, but unfortunately, people have been applying it as calling it the Don't Say Gay law and just applying it to gay people instead of applying it to all sexual orientations and all gender identities. And I would ask you to, if you could do that, just to point out the ridiculousness of this law. Thank you for your time and listening.
The next two speakers are Stephanie Folia and Ann Dowley.
Do you want me to start? Good afternoon. Last month, I attended the Pinellas County School Board meeting where I heard many LGBTQ speakers express concerns about their safety. As the parent of 3 boys, it is unfathomable to me that kids and teachers don't feel safe going to school for their gender or sexuality. This lack of safety should horrify every person in this room. I didn't speak at the last meeting. I really hate public speaking, but as a mom and a concerned citizen, I can't stay quiet. I'm here today to ask the Pinellas County School Board members to implement policies that protect all children and allow them to learn without fear. Protecting students should be fundamental to being a Pinellas County School Board member. As a mom, I am asking you to do this most basic part of your job. Your announcement of the release of the inclusivity guidelines is a great step forward, but it is a tiny step forward. As your own vision statement reads, 100% student success. Achieving 100% academic success depends on all kids feeling safe. True liberty means kids are free from fear and able to learn. Keep up the good work and keep going with good forward momentum. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Folia, and I'd like to thank the superintendent and the board for approving the release of the inclusion guidelines. Okay, as an American, I grew up in this country believing in our country. I grew up believing in the Constitution, believing civil rights were not a privilege of a few, but were entitled to every single person living here. I believe we belong to one race only. We all bleed red, okay, and that is the human race. So I stand here frustrated, fed up, downright angry that we are here in 2023 still fighting attacks on children, teachers who educate them, and other marginalized people in this country. Our schools need to be a safe place for all children to grow and learn. Okay? I haven't heard any books killing any kids in school or anywhere else, but yet we focus on books, we focus on LGBTQ issues, and we don't focus on the items that are killing kids, mass shootings in schools. Exposure to different people, to ideas, is part of education. We can't erase history to fit the needs of a certain agenda. Ignorance will only breed hate. One person or group should not be dictating education for all. If you disagree with the public education system and what's being taught, it's your responsibility as a parent either to homeschool them or move them to a private school. I went to Catholic school because my parents felt it was better for me. That was their choice. Not saying it was great, but anyway. Parental rights and religious freedoms means that you have the right to raise your children as you wish, to practice your religion as you wish, and it should not be dictating what the rest of the community does. Keep in mind that these are children. They are young, they are our future, and we need to feed them, nourish them, and cherish them so that they could grow up to be productive members of our community. Okay? If we're going to focus on education, it's not just academia, it's also socialization. And as a former executive of a large corporation, I hired not only the best talent, but people who were open-minded. And raising kids in a vacuum and trying to hide all the other issues, these children will not be able to compete in a world job market. So I thank you for your consideration to these issues and to the safety of our children. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Nellie Henyes and Brad DeCordy.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to say I really appreciated that we had a proclamation for educational support professionals today, and I'm so happy about that. And I hope that everybody in the school system and the school sites appreciate them the way I do as a president, and I always appreciate them. But it is something that I wanted to say. It is not only to say thank you, it is respect. They need to be respected. The past two bargaining meetings, we are not being respected. You can see it by yourself if you want to see the YouTube video. We are educators just like everybody else. If you don't have educational support professionals inside the buildings, the school will not run. That school system will do not run. So I just ask him, please, start respecting us the way we respect everybody. That's all I wanted to say. And I hope everybody tell them a great Educational Support Professional National Day. Thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Hendrick, and staff, my name is Brad DeCordy. I taught ELA for over 22 years in Pinellas County before retiring last year. And I'm sure there are some people, some Floridians who are fed up with the attacks on not only our children, especially our LGBTQ students, who are some of our most vulnerable students to begin with. And are also upset with the attack on teachers. Some attacks have been made because the teachers had, they wanted to talk about their students, and they said, my students. And in this very room, I've heard parents call out, they're not your kids, okay, when they said my kids. They treat them like they're their kids, okay? When we had the duck and cover drills, I was the one that stood by the door. The kids weren't up front, I was. That was my job to protect them. Right now, you are making decisions that will shape the climate in our schools for years to come. There has never been a more important time to show that you respect all our students and their families. LGBTQ plus faculty, staff, students, and their families need to be guaranteed basic dignities. I understand many of these bills come from Tallahassee, and we have to do what Tallahassee dictates, but we need to make sure that it's clear in our district what is accepted, what is acceptable, and what our teachers and students, need to understand. We live in a free country and supposedly free state. We should be encouraging our students to expand their knowledge on diverse topics and ideas, not banning books and censoring curriculums. We need to trust our educators. Their profession is education, not discrimination. We should not be politicizing their duties. Now I want to commend you on a couple of proclamations you've had this year when it came to National African American History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, American Founders Month. I just have a problem with support professional day. That should be much more than a day. I know I couldn't have gotten through a day of work without the staff professionals. And I think most teachers would agree with me. So I'm glad I got to stand up here with, with Nellie. Okay, and I'm also disappointed that one of the groups that was important in the foundation of Florida is the a proclamation for National Native American Month, which is actually this month right now, and we skipped over.
The next two speakers are Grayson Aaron and Aspen Agatha Damon.
Good afternoon. My name is Aspen Agatha Damon. I'm a 19-year-old transgender adult. If I was 2 years younger, I would be in this school system and impacted by your decisions today. Currently, I tutor students in math. I've been a member of GSAs, a president of a nature club at my school, and I graduated from FLVS last year in 2022. My girlfriend is a trans woman, a retired teacher of 7 years. I personally know trans youth going through high school and middle school and going to live through the decisions you have made today. Trans kids are kids, not other, not wrong, or not banned. Recently, Florida laws restrict transgender students from being able to use restrooms and locker rooms affirming their identity. I am asking that the school board expands the number of single-use, unisex restrooms on every school campus and allow them the basic decency to use the restroom without harassment. Regarding pronouns, the law states that it is false to ascribe a person a pronoun that does not correspond to such a person's sex. Like a lot of the points in recent legislation, these points are vague and will be construed to harm trans people. The law prevents an employee from being required to refer to another person using their preferred title or pronouns, prevent an employee from sharing their preferred title or pronouns, and prevent a student from being asked their preferred title or pronouns. And a change of name requested from a student needs to be reported. Trans kids can't keep up with these changes. They are scared for what this means for them. They are watching and waiting and hoping that new legislation allows them to exist. Thank you for the release of inclusive guidelines. I am asking that you communicate to all students that they are safe in schools. Every child deserves a space to be themselves, and sometimes their only space is schools. I'm asking you to tell my trans brothers, sisters, and non-binary friends that they are safe and welcome. The best thing that you can do is to protect them and communicate that they are safe, that they will not be reported for being themselves and just being kids, learning, exploring, and having fun as themselves. Y que todos están recibidos.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to speak today. I also had to change my speech up a little bit, but I wanted to thank you for having a vision for inclusivity for the students in this county. I am a transgender man. I moved here 2 years ago. I lived in rural Arkansas, and I actually transitioned in high school. So I was socially and medically transitioning. I was taking testosterone. Now I have the privilege that no one knows unless I tell them, but that wasn't the case when I was a teenager. I was ridiculed by students and teachers alike. I was used as an example in biology class by teachers. I wasn't allowed to use the restrooms, and whenever I attempted, I was physically assaulted by both men and women. I was bullied by the principals, the superintendent. I had to walk all the way across a building this size if I wanted to go to the only bathroom I could use, which was not fun when you have 5 minutes in between classes. And I wasn't allowed to start a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance, at my school. Even though before I told them the name, they were like, yeah, new clubs, you know, you can do that. They found out what it was and they said, I'm so sorry. We cannot do that at this time. I know you have said that you have recently been hearing a lot more from your LGBTQ neighbors, friends, people who come to these meetings. And I would like to ask you to keep listening and to keep us in mind and to keep doing what you can to protect the kids who are going through what they're going through, what I went through, and to just respect and uphold decency in the schools. Thank you for your time.
The next two speakers are Cassandra Mall and Deborah Brown.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Mall. I am a product of Pinellas County Schools. I had teenage parents and grew up in St. Pete, so I went to 4 different elementary schools, and then went to Riviera, and then graduated from Gibbs High School in '95. I was at the Pinellas County Center for the Arts, so I was lucky to be in a bubble of an arts program, where even though in the '90s, I wouldn't say it was like overly welcoming at our school, it really was. And I think I have a 21-year-old that also graduated from Gibbs a couple years ago. And we were very lucky to have an environment that was open and welcoming, and the arts, so you can imagine. I have a 7-year-old, and I'm also raising my granddaughter. And I'm terrified of putting them in public schools, which I raised my first two, my 23-year-old and my 21-year-old, in public school here. I can't say that I literally can't do it again. Moms for Liberty scares the crap out of me. Like, I just can't imagine that environment where my kids will feel safe and where I would feel safe sending them to, and it really is depressing because I love my city. I'm a native. I've been here my whole life. I've always believed in public education. I volunteer a lot. And now I feel like I can't put another set of kids through this school system. Also, I grew up in South County schools, and I witnessed firsthand by, raising my first two, the disparity between North County schools and South County schools. And it's, you guys know, and I know that you've been addressing it. I also understand what it's like to be on a board and having the complex issues and all the different, things that weigh on your decision making. So I appreciate that you're here. But I felt the need to stand up and say, I'm from here. This is my home, and I'm afraid to send my kids to school. So I appreciate. I look forward to reading the new version of the inclusive, guidelines. And I really, like LSAO said, you are our champions. So I look forward to watching this unfold and hopefully coming to a day where I feel comfortable putting my girls back in school. So thank you.
Thank you for having this forum and letting so many of my friends and neighbors speak to a subject that's extremely important. The current rhetoric that is dripping down from Tallahassee in the form of racist, homophobic, transphobic, every kind of phobic, is scary and makes Florida look backward and ridiculous. I am hoping that this school board, which seems to be a little beacon of hope in this black abyss that is falling upon us, will see that it is much more important to allow discussion, debate, critical thinking, and all the things that education are supposed to provide our children. This can't be done by banning books and keeping children out of bathrooms and other ridiculous things like this. I really hope and pray that every one of you will realize that what is happening here in this state is not good, it is not freedom, and it's certainly not good for education, and it is not good for our children. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Betty Braden and Kelly Pomatico.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Betsy Braden from Tampa. Both of my kids went to Florida public schools. One's at Florida State. The other one, who is trans, was at New College until the governor destroyed the school. She is now a political refugee going to school at Hampshire College. I'm here to support the trans community and be a voice for the ones who cannot attend meetings at 10 a.m. on a workday. I attended the school board meeting on October 24th. I was very disturbed by the concerns of some of the speakers. One teacher spoke about being doxxed and harassed for being trans. Someone smashed her car windshield. 2 LGBTQ students spoke about being bullied, and no one was there to support or help them. One former teacher spoke about leaving the profession due to the state legislature targeting teachers, and the school board is not standing up for the teachers. The announcement today that the board met with Equality Florida about the guidelines is commendable, but according to your website today, there are still no guidelines released. Your lack of urgency in this matter is driving teachers out of the education field and students to flee the state. Pinellas County needs to support all students. To help the LGBTQ community, Pinellas County needs to move forward and release the LGBTQ guidelines and put them on the website. These guidelines outline for students, families, and educators the crucial information they need to be able to best support students with the draconian laws that have been passed in Florida. Hillsborough County already approved the LGBTQ guidelines. The students and teachers are better supported there. They are not coming to school board meetings complaining about smashed up windshields. Please take notice across the bay. Yesterday was National Kindness Day. Please be kind to the LGBT community and release the guidelines ASAP.
Hello again. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. I would like to reiterate that, I grew up in the Florida school system. I went to Campbell Park Elementary for 5 years. I went to Riviera Middle School, and I graduated from Northeast High in 1994. And my son, like I said, is a student at Perkins. And, you know, we are white. We are the gender we were assigned. And my son had long hair when he was in kindergarten, and he was mistaken for a girl, like, on the regular, and I never corrected anybody because it just didn't really matter. But one of the reasons that I wanted to send him to Perkins was because I wanted him to feel safe. And I didn't want him to go to his, like, neighborhood school. And I just really, like, was afraid of him being bullied. And, you know, kids do get bullied, and I do want to say thank you very much to the Pinellas County school system, because Perkins Elementary School is a really great school, and my son was a victim of bullying, and they took care of it. They handled it, and it hasn't been an issue since, and I'm really grateful for that. I also kind of want to echo the things that Ms. Jenkins said, and there's not really a whole lot that hasn't already been said, except that the number one, statistically, the number one reason that children die is gunfire, but the second, the number 2 reason that children die is suicide. And so that really speaks to a lot of the issues with the kids not feeling free, and they need to, you know, definitely be able to feel included, and nobody should be afraid to be who they are. So thank you for letting me speak again.
The next 2 speakers are Penny Weston and Lindsay Sparrow.
Good morning again. I would like to address the body as a veteran. I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I gave up my freedom so you all and you all could have freedom. Because when I joined the United States Marine Corps, or any military person joined, they signed their name on a dotted line and they gave up their freedom. I was told when to get up, what to wear, what to eat, and what I was going to do for the day. I did not serve my country to come here in Pinellas County and say that young children should be free to be who they want to be. The teachers should be free to say the things they need to say to the children. The books the children are supposed to be able to read to help them grow and mature. The sad thing, I mean, all through today was the words freedom and dignity and respect, and I applaud you board members that are taking it seriously. I asked people in the audience that your voice, your vote counts at the ballot. And unfortunately, we have made a grave error in the last few years in the state of Florida. So I did not give up my freedom to stand here today to beg for freedom for children to be children, teachers to be teachers, you to be you. My shirt says, God is fabulous. He thinks you're fabulous, and we're all fabulous. And I would just ask that you would remember that this is the United States of America, and what the lady said about the Statue of Liberty. We cannot say to the African American, well, you were so lucky you learned a trade way back when after you were whipped 5 or 16 times a day. We cannot say to the American Indian, thank you for giving us the land that we have that we stole from you. We cannot say to the Hispanic people, you don't belong here. The Latin Americans, the Puerto Ricans. This country is about freedom, and that's why your men and women went in the military so we could stay free, and please remember that.
Good morning, board. Good morning, class. My name is Lindsay Sparrow. My pronouns are they and he. I'm non-binary, and I also happen to be transgender. I've spoken here to you before. There's 2 things I want to talk to you about today. As somebody who is transgender and non-binary, and also experiences a fair amount of privilege in my life, I am still I've still been subjected to violence and displacement. The Don't Say Gay law and the forceful banning of books is doing that to your transgender, non-binary, and queer students right now, today. What I mean by violence and displacement, you heard witness to already today. You've heard stories multiple weeks, multiple months over of your teachers, of your students, of the people that you claim you want to have a 100% success rate experiencing direct, targeted violence because of these bills in your schools. That is your responsibility. What I mean by displacement is that laws like these are driving students not just out of your schools, but out of your state. That is your responsibility. The amount of people that I know in my own community who have left in the last few months because they don't feel safe, they no longer feel safe in your schools, the amount of incredible teachers who I know who have left your school system is a tragedy, and you have the power to stop it. You are elected officials. I am 26 years old. I grew up being taught in a religious community by my pastoral father that government means something. I vote. We voted for you. I need you to release these guidelines. I demand that you release these guidelines. Secondly and finally, you live in a diverse community. We live in a diverse community. And in our community right now, there are Palestinian Americans who need your voice. Right now in Palestine, there is genocide happening. Over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed today.
I'm sorry.
There are
stopped
over 4,000 of them are children. Over 4,000 of them are children.
If you continue to interrupt, we will stop the time and stop the camera.
You need to speak up. Call for a ceasefire now. Call for
you
a
have
ceasefire
forfeited the
now.
remainder of your time. Please cut the camera. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers.
Thank you, and thank you all for attending the meeting today. After a short recess, the superintendent will call order this organizational meeting of the School Board of Pinellas County of Florida. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I call this organizational meeting of the School Board of Pinellas County, Florida, this 14th day of November 2023 to order. This meeting is called pursuant to Section 1001.371 Florida statutes for the purpose of organizing the school board by election of a chairperson and vice chairperson. Please stand for a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I now open the floor for nominations for chairperson of the school board. Mrs. King?
Thank you so much. It is with great pride that I nominate Ms. Laura Hine to be our next chairperson.
Second.
Thank you. We don't need a second just yet. We have one nomination. Are there other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the nominations for chair, and we will take a vote. All those in favor of Laura Hine as chairperson, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mrs. Hine. I will now open for nominations for vice chair of the school board. Mrs. Meyer.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to nominate Ms. Peters for vice chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Hine.
I would like to nominate Ms. Edmond for vice chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Long.
I'd like to nominate Carol Cook for vice chair.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? I don't see any more in the queue. With that, I will close the nominations for vice chair, and we will now take a vote. All those in favor of Dawn Peters for vice chair, please signify by saying aye. Okay. I hear two. All right. We're going to go to the second nomination. All those in favor of Caprice Edmond as vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. I hear two. We'll go to the third nomination. All those in favor of Carol Cook as vice chair, please signify by saying aye. Do that one more time, if I can. Aye. I hear three. All right, we're going to continue then. We can take additional nominations, or we can go back and vote again. Correct, Mr. Kapersky?
That is correct. You need a majority of the board to elect an officer, and so at this point, process would for you to be to reopen the floor for nominations. I would start again.
Thank you. I'll reopen the floor for nominations. Ms. Hine?
I'd like to nominate Caprice Edmond for vice chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Long?
I'd like to nominate Carol Cook for vice chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Peters for vice chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I'll close the nominations at this time, and we will vote in that order. First, all those in favor of Caprice Edmond as vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I hear two. All those in favor of Carol Cook for vice chair, please signify by saying aye. We do that one more time. Okay, that is four. Congratulations, Mrs. Cook, vice chair.
Thank you.
All right. At this point,
Mr. Hendrick?
Yes, sir.
If I can, just for the record, so those voting in favor of Mrs. Cook for vice chair were
Eileen
Mrs.
Long?
Long, Right.
John Peters,
John
Carol
Peters,
Cook, and
Carol
Lisa
Cook.
Kane.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Chair Hine to complete the rest of the meeting.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank Lisa Kane for her service this last year as board chair. She was clear, kind, thoughtful, and anywhere I was that you were, I was very proud to have you representing Pinellas County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then second, I would just like to say thank you to my colleagues for the trust and support, and I promise to do my best. So here we go. Today we have one order of business, consent item 3.1, request approval of the schedule of regular school board meetings occurring from December 2023 through the November 2024 organization meeting. May I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mrs. Meyer.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kane. Mrs. Hauk, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this item?
No, Madam Chair, no speakers.
Is there any board discussion? Mrs. Edmond?
I would just like the record to reflect that there was an ask for a conversation regarding the meeting start times, and there was consensus to go with what is being proposed.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? I have a motion and a second to approve item 3.1, request approval of the schedule of regular school board meetings occurring from December 2023 through November 2024 organization meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 7-0. Following the adjournment of the organization meeting, we will convene the Pinellas School Board Leasing Corporation meeting for the purpose of election of officers. This meeting is adjourned. I call this meeting of the School Board Leasing Corporation to order, and I turn the meeting over to Mr. David Kapersky, School Board Attorney, for description of the meeting and the vote that needs to be taken.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members, Mr. Superintendent, and members of the public. You are now sitting in the Pinellas County Schools Leasing Corporation Board of Directors meetings, and you are all members of the Board of Directors, and Mr. Hendrick is the ex officio secretary of the corporation. This corporation is not a governmental entity, but rather it is a Florida not-for-profit corporation, a private entity. But of course, the members of the board of directors are exactly the same as the members of the school board. By law, you need to have this private nonprofit corporation to borrow and receive the funds that you need in order to process your certificates of participation bonds, which you use in some of your construction projects. So if you have any questions about the bonding program and the COPS program, I know that Mr. Smith is here as well, and he can answer any questions about that. But with that as the background, you need to have an annual meeting of the Leasing Corporation, and that always occurs right after the organizational meeting of the school board. And your sole order of business in this meeting is to conduct officer elections, much like you just did in the school board organizational meeting. But your bylaws and articles of incorporations contemplate that the officers will be the same on the school board and in the Leasing Corporation board. And so with that, Ms. Hine, I would ask that you call for a motion to appoint Ms. Hine as the chair of the board of directors and president of the corporation, and Mrs. Cook as the vice chair and vice president of the corporation.
May I have a motion to elect the officers as described by Mr. Kapersky?
I move for approval.
Motion by Mrs. Kane, second by Mrs. Edmond. Is there any board discussion? I have a motion and a second to approve Laura Hine as the chair of the board of directors and president of the School Board Leasing Corporation, and to appoint Carol Cook as the vice chair of the board of directors and vice president of the School Board Leasing Corporation. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 7-0. So along with wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and to say that I'm very grateful to be working with all of you and grateful for what you do every day, I hereby adjourn this meeting of the School Board Leasing Corporation. Thank you.